Chapter 2561 Who's the Ant? 1. Sparks flew everywhere. The two women's eyes, which were very unfriendly, met in the air, causing a crackling silver spark. Ming Song and the others, who were closer to them, could clearly feel the smell of gunpowder in the air. Although the two women had a big gap in strength, their auras were very similar. Putting aside the strength factor, this was the first time the two had really faced each other, so their auras could be said to be equal. As for their strength, Minga and the others did not dare to make a hasty judgment. The dragon, phoenix, and the vines that were entangled with each other seemed to have met their mortal enemy. They were in a deadlock. At the same time, the battle between Dongfang Yu and the others continued. After an unknown period of time, Leng Ruoxue and Wu Cheng were still in a stalemate. As for the elders of the dragon, phoenix and white tiger race who had not surrendered, when they saw that the situation was not good, they all found an opportunity to escape. Dongfang Yu and the rest did not stop her. Then, they went to Leng Ruoxue's side. Looking at Wu Ling, whose face had turned red and whose eyes were burning with anger, Dongfang Yu teased with a smile, "Wuli, your men have either died or run away. You are the only one left. Will you surrender or run away?" It sounded like he was asking for Wu Jing's opinion, but it was obvious that he was trying to anger her. Not only that, before Wu Jing could answer, Dongfang Lin interrupted again, "Brother, look at what you're saying. How could Rai possibly escape? Who was she? She's the current master of the divine realm." "That's true. I've underestimated her." Dongfang Yu made a show of knowing his mistake and changing for the better. Listening to the two brothers chiming in, Minga and the others broke out in cold sweat. Was this a tactic? Using this method to distract the enemy's attention, and then infuriate the enemy to the point of losing their minds, and then they'll kill them all in one fell swoop. Minga and the others expressed their appreciation for the Dongfang brothers' actions. As expected, Fog had been provoked. When she attacked, she was trembling with anger. Seeing her like this, they all sympathized with her. AI. It's not easy to be a commander. God Lord Cloud Ripple, quickly gather some subordinates. Ming Ziyi suggested, his face full of sincerity. You're really smart, kid. Dongfang Yu said as if he had thought of something. Then, he turned around and left the mountain with a few reverent god-level cultivators. Ming Ziyi watched Dongfang Yu and the others leave. No matter how stupid he was, he knew what they were doing. Unfortunately, he couldn't split himself and join in the fun. Ming Ziyi felt very regretful. Just as he was slightly distracted, a vine suddenly hit him. The thorns on the vine stabbed into his skin, and the tiny straw in the suction cups on the head of the vine also quickly stabbed into his body. Ah! Ming Ziyi cried out in alarm and quickly slashed at the rattan with his knife. However, what made him depressed was that the rattan only trembled slightly and did not suffer much damage. However, he could clearly feel that something in his body was rapidly flowing out. This feeling made him quite uncomfortable. Thanks, Dark Swamp. Seeing this, Minga and the others immediately gave up on the entanglement with the rattan and ran to his side. They used their weapons to cut the rattan that had pierced into Ming Ze's body, but the rattan was still not too damaged. At this time, the rattan that had been entangled with Minga and the others also wrapped around them. They had to dodge the attacks of the rattan while continuing to cut the rattan that was absorbing the life force of the underworld swamp. You guys move aside. The demon saw that the situation was not good and hurried over. Then, a black divine power slowly gathered in his hand. The ball-shaped black divine power instantly expanded into the shape of a sharp blade. Then, the sharp edge of the dark light quickly cut toward the vine. With a bang, the vine that was inserted into Ming Ze's body was cut in two. The rescued Ming Ze's face was extremely pale. The demon quickly took out a pill and gave it to him. Only then did Ming Ze's face look a little better. How is this possible? Suddenly, Wu Xiao's cry of disbelief reached everyone's ears. Then, everyone saw her eyes widen as she looked at the evildoer with a shocked expression. She then said with a shocked expression, this is impossible. How did you break my vine? Wu Xiao was so surprised that she was almost stunned. Seeing that she was distracted, Leng Ruoxue took the opportunity to swing her sword a few more times and cut the rattan. With a bang, she cut off another one. In a good mood, she kindly explained, there are too many things that are impossible. Do you really think that your cane is omnipotent? God Lord Fog Ripple, aren't you being a little too arrogant? Leng Ruoxue's taunting caused the dazed Wu Xiao to snap back to her senses. However, the look of disbelief on her face did not disappear at all. After she heard Leng Ruoxue's words, she was even more furious and shouted, my vines aren't that easy to cut off. I've already cut off two. Leng Ruoxue reminded him with a smile. You are a pervert. Wu Xian cursed in her heart. At the same time, Xian Yi's cry for help came from her heart, Divine Master, we've been surrounded. The opponents are too strong, and we're all injured. What should we do now? What to do? What to do? Damn it! This bunch of useless trash. Hearing the voice transmission in her heart, Wu Ling's anger deepened by a few layers. The light in her bloodshot red eyes was dark and unclear, making it impossible to know what she was thinking. At the moment, Xian Yi and the other two reverent gods from the Divine Master's estate were having a private chat with Dongfang Yu and the others who had surrounded them. They stood in a fighting stance and chatted, occasionally having a little fun. However, the subordinates they had brought along were not as relaxed as them. In fact, the people who were really besieged were their subordinates. As for them, they were just putting on a show. Dongfang Yu was fighting with Xian Yi with ease. While fighting, he couldn't help but ask, aren't you afraid that Rhyme will be angry if you guys betray us like this? Are we betraying others? Aren't we fighting? Who can you blame if you're not as good as him? Xian Yi blinked his eyes and said with an innocent expression. All right. I was being meddlesome. Dongfang Yu was helpless. He suddenly felt some sympathy for Wu Mo. That woman had set him up. Did this count as her karma? Among the people around her, other than the men in black whom she had trained, there was no one who was truly loyal to her. At first, Dongfang Yu didn't know what role Xian Yi and the other two had played in this. He only knew that he was a little confused when he received Xian Yi's voice transmission, asking him and the others to put on an act and fight with them. He had lived for so many years and had fought with many enemies, but this was the first time he had heard such a request from an enemy. Although he had once doubted the other party's purpose, when he heard Xian Yi say that he and Uncle Long were friends and Uncle Long had confirmed it, he was relieved. However, according to Uncle Long, the other two reverent god-level cultivators had no friendship with him. He really didn't know how these three people got together and why they all had such thoughts. Thinking of this, Dongfang Yu couldn't help but ask curiously, can those two be trusted? He was referring to Xia Yi and Huang Wei, the two reverent god-level experts, who were not far away. Chapter 2562, Who's the Ant? 2. Sure, they were the ones who came up with this idea. They don't want to be enemies with that little girl Shuai. Xian Yi smiled faintly. Why? Dongfang Yu didn't understand. Weren't they from Rime Ice? Why did they betray him so easily? Master Yu is their idol. Xian Yi explained. Ever since Xia Yi and Huang Wei found out about Leng Ruoxue's identity in the Yao clan's divine domain and heard about Lord Yu, the two of them had been in a dilemma. In many people's hearts, Sir Yes' status was supreme, and in their hearts, it was no exception. Moreover, they had never thought that the cause of Sir Yes' death would be related to Wu Yan. After knowing this, they naturally had some thoughts about Wu Yan, and could no longer listen to Wu Yan's words as they had before. Basically, except for some ordinary guards, many experts in the Divine Lord's estate had their own ideas. Some of them had even used the excuse of training to leave the Divine Lord's estate. Wu Chen was powerless to stop this. Dongfang Yu was relieved to hear Xian Yi's words. However, in order to make the act more realistic, they did not show any mercy in the end. Xian Yi and the others were seriously injured and fell awkwardly at the foot of the mountain in the land of demons. After doing all this, Dongfang Yu brought his men back to the mountain. At this moment, Wu Yan had suddenly lost contact with Xian Yi and the others. When she saw Dongfang Yu and the others from the corner of her eye, the anger in her heart began to rise to the top of her head again. In addition, several vines had been broken. For a moment, her anger multiplied. However, Dongfang Yu added fuel to the fire. Wu Li, we've destroyed more than half of your subordinates. However, considering our friendship, I've kindly left a few of them to run errands for you. You don't have to thank me. This is what I should do. Hearing Dongfang Yu's words, Leng Ruoxue was speechless. When did Dongfang Yu learn to be so sharp-tongued? Look at how angry Ripple was, she was about to explode. Leng Ruoxue, who could clearly sense that something was wrong with Wu Aisa's emotions, instantly raised her guard. After panting heavily, Wu Qing suddenly said coldly, Leng Ruoxue, you forced me to do this. Wu Ling's words were vicious. Her voice was like a demon from hell, making one's hair stand on end. Before Leng Ruoxue could figure out what Wu Ling was trying to do, she saw the unparalleled beauty in front of her turn into a huge flower that floated in the air. The flower instantly occupied half the sky. The flower was as red as blood, and there were a few transparent dewdrops on the petals. The core of the flower was golden, and there were many tiny wriggling straws inside. When Leng Ruoxue saw this, she was so disgusted that she almost vomited. However, when she felt the pressure from the huge flower, Leng Ruoxue's intuition told her that this flower should be Fog's true form. Furthermore, this flower was simply too big. It was almost as big as the entire land of demons. Compared to such a huge flower, Leng Ruoxue and the others were so small that they could be ignored. At the same time, Wu Xiao's beautiful face appeared on the pistol again. However, the expression on the perfect face was not friendly at all. There were 2 clusters of flames that were almost solid burning in her angry red eyes. Leng Ruoxue, prepare to die. Wu Jing spoke and looked at Leng Ruoxue and the rest as if they were dead. Originally, she didn't want to use her main body, but these people were really too much, and she couldn't bear it anymore. Now, what she wanted to do the most was to end the battle quickly and turn these people into her fertilizer, especially Leng Ruoxue. She was the most delicious fertilizer. Even though Leng Ruoxue's blood would taste better when she was alive, she had already decided that no matter if she was dead or alive, she had to get rid of Leng Ruoxue. This woman must not be left alive. Thanks, Wu Jing's idea was good, but would Leng Ruoxue and the others follow her script? These people were all eager to see the world in chaos. Even if the enemy was strong, they could not be weak. As soon as Wu Yan finished speaking, Uncle Long immediately left the Dragon Emperor and Phoenix King, who had been tortured miserably by them, and turned to Wu Yan, saying, Do you think we have to die just because you want us to? Who do you think you are? Yeah, who do you think you are? Ha ha ha. Only today did I learn that God Lord Fog Ripple isn't even a garlic. Of course she's not a garlic, she's the most shameless bastard. Bastard? If I hear you say that, I'll cry. The crowd chimed in one after another, and the petals of the giant flower trembled violently in anger. The ground under their feet shook as if there was an earthquake. However, Uncle Long and the others were not afraid. Instead, the smile on their faces grew wider. Even if they were weaker than the other party, they could not let the other party see the fear in their hearts. This was what everyone was thinking at this moment. Therefore, they were very calm. However, Wu Jing was unable to remain calm. She had thought that she could easily get rid of Leng Ruoxue and the others, but she clearly felt that she had underestimated these people. Without any other choice, she could only use her trump card. Die, ants! Mist Ripple couldn't take it anymore and roared. Then, thousands of vines flew towards them from all directions. Be careful, everyone. Leng Ruoxue let out a loud cry and flew towards the vines flying towards her. The cold shadow sword in her hand slashed out several sword rays, slashing at the sturdy and tough vines. At the same time, a meteor shower flew out, followed by several dragons and phoenixes made of divine power. They each fought against the vines of fog ice. Seeing this, the demon, Uncle Long, and the others immediately fought in their best condition. For a time, everyone was in a chaotic battle with the fog. It had to be said that after the fog ripple returned to its original form, its strength was at least twice as strong as before. Just now, Len Ruoxue didn't feel so exhausted when she was fighting with Wu Ice. But now, she could feel it. Was this the true strength of Fog Ice? He was really too powerful. Not only was Wu Yen powerful, but after she released her pressure, all living things in the surrounding 100 miles, whether they were humans, beasts, or plants, could feel the endless and terrifying power. Many people and beasts couldn't help but prostrate on the ground and worship in an unknown direction. Even the living beings in the distance had such a feeling, and Uncle Long and the others, who were close by, felt it even more deeply. None of them, including Dong Fangyu, had expected that Rime Ice would be so powerful. Could they deal with such a powerful Rime Ice now? Dong Fangyu and the others felt a trace of uncertainty in their hearts after Wu Xiao couldn't bear it anymore and revealed her true strength. However, it was impossible for them to give up. Everyone, be careful. As long as you find an opportunity, escape. Where there's life, there's hope. She doesn't want her life, but we do. Len Ruoxue sent an urgent message to everyone. Chapter 2563, Who's the Ant? 3. This time, no one refused. This was because they knew that if they didn't find a chance to escape, they would really become fertilizer for the fog. This was especially so for the Grand Elder of the Craftsmen's Guild headquarters and the others. At this time, they had long been suppressed by the mist ripple's might and looked miserable. The vines that were everywhere were even more difficult to guard against. Fortunately, with the poison from Shen Nua and the others, those vines were slightly afraid and did not dare to attack too fiercely. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Great Elder and the others knew very well that right now, they were completely holding them back. Therefore, they couldn't care less about losing face. They looked for an opportunity to teleport to the foot of the mountain, and when those vines saw that someone wanted to escape, they chased even more closely. When Len Ruoxue, who was not far away, saw this, she hurriedly teleported in the direction of the First Elder and the rest, blocking the vines that were chasing after them. This gave the First Elder and the rest a chance to catch their breath. After giving Len Ruoxue a deep look, the First Elder, Shen Nua, and the other alchemists then continued to move towards a safe place. When the vines saw that someone had escaped, they furiously attacked Len Ruoxue. In an instant, the number of vines attacking Len Ruoxue increased by several times. Looking at the 100 threatening vines, Len Ruoxue was still waving her cold shadow to fight them calmly. However, it was definitely not an easy fight for her. As she fought, she had to constantly throw pills into her mouth. If she was not careful, she would be injured by the vines. It could be said that Len Ruoxue had never been forced into such a sorry state since she started cultivating. She wasn't the only one in a sorry state. Uncle Long and the others weren't any better off. At this time, their bodies were covered in wounds and their Shen power was being consumed rapidly. If it was not for the fact that they still had enough pills in their hands, they would have become fertilizer for Jia Wu Min. The more they fought, the more depressed Uncle Long and the others became. At this moment, they really wanted to listen to Len Ruoxue's words and take the opportunity to escape. Unfortunately, the fog ice had released too many densely packed vines, causing them to not even be able to find the opportunity to teleport. Otherwise, he would definitely be entangled by the vines. Uncle Long and the others didn't even dare to imagine what the outcome would be. If this continued, there would only be one outcome for them, and that was to become the prisoners of fog. Uncle Long and the others would definitely not be able to accept such an outcome. There was also Shuai. If Shuai fell into the hands of Wu Xian, she would definitely end up in a miserable state. They weren't afraid of their own deaths, but the moment they thought of Shuai, their hearts ached. No. They could not let Wu Chen succeed. Even if they could not defeat Wu Chen, they could not let Shuai fall into Wu Chen's hands. After making up their minds, Uncle Long and the others' auras instantly skyrocketed. Since they couldn't cut the vines, they wouldn't let these vines have an easy time either. With this thought in mind, Uncle Long and the others used all their means to deal with the vines. Although the effect was minimal, it still caused a lot of trouble for the vines. At least they didn't all chase after Schwer. After fighting for a long time and not capturing a single captive, Ripple Mist couldn't help but feel frustrated. These guys were really hard to deal with. The furious Rhyme controlled the rattan and pounced at Dongfang Yu. Dongfang Yu felt a gust of wind by his ear and turned his head to dodge it alertly. However, his leg was tightly wrapped by the rattan that had sneaked in from the east and west. The thorns on the rattan had pierced deep into his leg. An intense pain instantly spread from his calf to his whole body. He immediately felt his body go numb and a little stiff. Seeing this, Dongfang Yu hurriedly used his weapon to cut off the vines that were binding him. "Don't move, I'll do it." A crisp female voice rang in his ears. Dongfang Yu turned around subconsciously and saw Leng Ruoxue, who had appeared beside him out of nowhere, waving her cold shadow to cut the rattan on his leg. Pa pa! The vine snapped and fell limply to the ground. A black, sticky liquid oozed out of the broken vine and gave off a foul smell. Similarly, black blood was flowing out of Dongfang Yu's calf. When Leng Ruoxue saw this, she quickly took out an elixir and fed it to Dongfang Yu. "Be careful." Suddenly, another voice rang out. At the same time, a black ray of light flew towards Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue quickly turned her head and saw that the vine that was very close to her had been cut into two by the dark light. Then, Leng Ruoxue was pulled into a fiery embrace. "Schwer, are you hurt?" the demon asked worriedly. "I'm fine," she said. Leng Ruoxue felt much more at ease when she saw the demon. "Schwer, I will protect you." The demon hesitated for a moment before saying. Leng Ruoxue nodded and saw the reluctance in the demon's eyes. Before she could figure out what was going on, the laws of heaven and earth suddenly descended and covered the demon's body. "Thanks, evildoer," Leng Ruoxue was dumbfounded. How could an evildoer advance at this time? When the crowd saw this scene, they were all shocked. A breakthrough at this moment. Just as everyone was in a daze, several vines had already crept up to them and instantly bound them tightly. At the same time, another vine attacked Leng Ruoxue. Leng Ruoxue was caught off guard and was hit by one of the vines. However, she immediately reacted and swung her sword a few times, cutting the vines around her into two. "Ha ha ha! You're all dead." When Ripple Mist saw this, she was neither angry nor angry. Instead, she laughed proudly. Humph. Advancing at this time was really courting death. One had to know that there was the protection of the laws of heaven and earth during the breakthrough. She might not be able to do anything to that man, but after the breakthrough, she needed to rest for a while. That was also the time when the person who had broken through was the weakest. At that time, she would definitely be able to eliminate the man who was a threat to her in one fell swoop. As for the people in front of her, they would naturally become her most delicious fertilizer. When Wu Yan thought of this, she couldn't help but feel proud. While the evildoer was still safe from breaking through, Leng Ruoxue went to Uncle Long and the others, wanting to help them cut off that annoying vine. However, when Uncle Long and the others saw her like this, they all said, "Schwer, don't worry about us. Go and protect the demon. We can still hold on." They more or less understood the intention of the evildoer's advancement. In addition, they also knew that the only person who could cause harm to Fog Ice other than Schwer was the evildoer. As for them, they were not even qualified to be bystanders. Therefore, at such an urgent time, they could not let Schwer waste her energy on themselves. The evildoer was the most important thing. After hearing their words, Leng Ruoxue felt very depressed. Of course, she knew that being a demon was the most important thing. However, it was impossible for her to ignore Uncle Long and the others. Seeing that Leng Ruoxue was still trying to persuade them, Uncle Long shouted, "Schwer! Quickly go and protect that demon. His advancement is about to end." Leng Ruoxue turned around and saw that the laws of heaven and earth were indeed about to disappear. She could only say to Uncle Long and the others, "Then you guys must hold on, I'll come save you later." Uncle Long and the rest nodded their heads repeatedly. They only relaxed when Leng Ruoxue returned to the demon's side. A moment later. The laws of heaven and earth had completely disappeared, but the demon had yet to open his eyes. On the other hand, Wu Wan had long been impatient and was about to make a move. When Leng Ruoxue saw this, she narrowed her beautiful eyes and covered the demon with an earthen yellow light screen to protect him. "What, you think you're my match?" Upon seeing this, Wu Yan laughed softly and said with a dark expression. "Of course I know that I'm not your match right now. However, I won't let you hurt a single hair on my man," Leng Ruoxue said with determination. "Since that's the case, come and die, you ant." Wu Han had lost his patience. Suddenly, the sky changed color. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. This sudden phenomenon caused everyone, including Wu Xiao, to freeze on the spot. What was going on? A trace of uneasiness welled up in her heart. At this moment, she heard a cold voice that made her feel like she was falling into hell. "Who are you calling an ant?" Wu Yan's heart turned pale with fright and she hurriedly searched for the owner of the voice. This voice seemed familiar, but she was very unhappy. Then, she saw the beautiful man who was protected by the light screen stand up. Rhyme was so shocked that she couldn't even speak a complete sentence. Why did this man's aura seem so similar to that of a certain guy she hated? However, it was absolutely impossible for that guy to come to the divine world. The laws of heaven and earth would not allow him to run around. Wu Han was still clear about this in her heart. Moreover, this man's appearance was not exactly the same as the person she knew. Besides the aura on the two of them being somewhat similar, she really could not find any identical aspects. Thinking of this, Wu Jia was slightly relieved. "Of course it's you guys," Wu Xiao roared from above. Although this man had advanced to reverent god level and was somewhat similar to a certain man she hated, she did not completely treat these two as the same person, because that was simply impossible. Putting aside whether that person had the chance to come to the divinity, it was impossible for him to know Leng Ruoxue. One must know that she had basically investigated all 8 generations of Leng Ruoxue's ancestors. Hence, she was very certain that Leng Ruoxue was just a small ant with good luck. And this little ant was still too inexperienced to go against her. Now, she was going to capture this group of people in one fell swoop and see who could stop her. It had to be said that Wu Ling was a rather confident person. Even though she had underestimated Leng Ruoxue at the start, after she could not defeat Leng Ruoxue for a long time, she decisively used her greatest trump card and revealed her true strength in front of Leng Ruoxue. Firstly, it was to intimidate her, and secondly, she wanted to completely eliminate Leng Ruoxue, this hidden danger. After all, in her opinion, Leng Ruoxue was a much bigger threat than Bing Yao and the other two. Chapter 2564, Strength Awakens. 1. It was precisely because they were afraid of Leng Ruoxue's existence that they felt as if there was a dagger at their backs. That was why Wu Cheng's desire to get rid of Leng Ruoxue was so strong that it had exceeded everyone's imagination. No one had expected that Wu Cheng's true strength was already so strong that it was intimidating and unshakable. Such a fact had dealt a heavy blow to everyone, including Leng Ruoxue. The demon was even more clear that if he was hiding his strength, Shuer would probably die in the hands of Wu Xiao today. That perverted old woman obviously wouldn't let Shuer go. If he didn't recover his full strength, he wouldn't be Wu Yan's opponent at all. After struggling and hesitating for a long time, the demon made his final decision. Even if this decision might cause him to be punished by the laws of heaven and earth, he was willing to do so for Shuer. Since we're ants, I'll let you know what an ant's counterattack is like today. The demon's voice grew even colder. Leng Ruoxue, Dongfang Yu, and the others who were close to him could feel the chill in his voice. It was as if there were ice shards in his voice, causing their hearts to palpitate. Wu Jing also noticed it, but she didn't take it seriously. In her opinion, even if the other party had advanced, he was only a reverent god level. A reverent god wanted to defeat her. Wasn't that a fool's dream? Unless Yuha came personally, no one would be her match. After hearing the demon's words, the confident Fog Ice couldn't help but laugh wildly with ridicule, counterattack. Such big words. Good. Let's see how an ant like you can counterattack today. With a tone of anticipation, Ripple gave up on attacking the others and began to wait. Suddenly, there were a few rumbling thunder and lightning. The sky turned from clear to dark clouds, and then to pitch black. Was it going to rain? Leng Ruoxue took a glance at the pitch-black sky. It was as if a huge mouth of a beast had appeared in the distance, and a spot of light had lit up as if it was breathing out clouds and mist. In an instant, the spot of light seemed to be moving and growing larger. After a while, the spot of light was already very close to them, and Leng Ruoxue could finally see the true appearance of the spot of light. It was a phoenix, a black phoenix that flickered with a dark light. It was extremely beautiful, but the dark aura it exuded made people feel deep fear. The phoenix's body was huge, no weaker than the fog. It flew in front of them and circled the sky before stopping in front of the fog. Its huge black eyes swept across the fog and it said, "Little flower, let's decide the winner." Get lost. You animal. What are you doing here? When Wu Wan saw this familiar-looking phoenix, her huge petals trembled. She was obviously angry. Leng Ruoxue looked at the familiar-looking black phoenix as well, not knowing what it was up to. However, what surprised her was that this black phoenix was quite polite. Little flower, how can you do this to me? It really makes me sad. Why did I come here? I'm here for you. The black phoenix said with a bitter expression. It then extended its sharp beak to peck at the Mist Ripple's large petals. Mist Ripple felt pain and the flower trembled violently again. Thanks, damn it. You dare to hurt me? The consequences of River Ripple's anger were severe, but the black phoenix didn't seem to care at all. Instead, she said with a roguish expression, as the saying goes, beating is a sign of affection, scolding is a sign of love, and loving is a sign of kicking. The more I treat you like this, the deeper my feelings for you are. So, you should be grateful to me. What do you think, Xiaohua? After the black phoenix finished speaking, it really used its thick claws to grab the petals of the mist phoenix, as if it was going to kick them all the way to the ground. When Ripple saw this, she couldn't help but take a big step back. However, her body was too large, so after taking a big step back, she realized that there was no way back. This fact made her feel a little embarrassed and angry. Damn it! How did this damn bird appear? Unexpected. It must have been an accident. That person wouldn't come to the divine world, and the rules of heaven and earth wouldn't allow him to come here at will. Thus, Wu Jing sincerely thought that this damn bird had lost its way, but why did she feel so uneasy? Just as Fog was bewildered and uncertain, the black phoenix said with a sad expression, "Little flower, why are you hiding? You'll lose a piece of meat if you let me touch you." It was particularly dissatisfied with the fog's dodging. I can. Get lost, don't come near me. The Mist Ripple Fire roared. Let this guy touch it. Even if he didn't die, he would still lose half his life. No one could stand the powerful corrosiveness of its body. After all, just being pecked by it was so painful that her heart trembled, as if her soul was burning, so she was very unwilling to get close to this dead bird. She was also very clear about the master of this damn bird. This master and servant had always been inseparable, so she had to be careful. If this fellow's master also came, she had to think of a way out. However, she still didn't quite believe that person would come to the divine world. She also couldn't think of a reason for that person to come to the divine world. It should be known that the divine world and that person's world had always been like well water and river water. Moreover, the two sides had various transactions. She had also been trying hard to maintain a friendly relationship with the other party's world, so she couldn't understand why the other party would come to find trouble with her. This didn't make any sense. However, no matter how confused and depressed she was, the only 9 nether phoenix in the 9 nether prison had come, and it was still trying to get close to her and take advantage of her. This was something she couldn't deny. If it wasn't for the fact that this wasn't the right time, Ripple would have screamed at the sky. Lecherous wolf. In her eyes, the 9 netherworld dark phoenix was just a bastard who wanted to take advantage of her but would hurt her. However, the bastard in Wu Aisa's eyes would not consider her thoughts. After hearing Wu Aisa's words, the 9 nether dark phoenix smiled and said, "I'll leave just because you tell me to." How embarrassing would that be? And I'm not afraid to tell you the truth, this young master won't be leaving today, so you'd better obediently come and let me take advantage of you, understand? You stinky hooligan. Wu Xian was so angry that her huge petals trembled again. The beautiful face that appeared in the center of the flower was filled with anger. Her face was also flushed red, and her fiery red eyes were now so red that they seemed to be dripping blood. You're right, I'm a hooligan, who am I afraid of? The 9 nether dark phoenix was neither angry nor annoyed when she heard this. Instead, she laughed very proudly, while Wu Xiao was about to explode from anger. This fellow was definitely here to cause trouble. It was just that it came at the wrong time, and he didn't have the time to deal with it now. However, if she wanted to ignore it, would the 9 nether dark phoenix grant her wish? One had to know that the 9 nether dark phoenix had been summoned to temporarily hold back this flower. Len Ruoxue and the rest were in a state of confusion when they heard their conversation. This was the first time she knew that this 9 nether dark phoenix was so shameless. More importantly, she really didn't think that there was any point in taking advantage of Wu Yan. She was a ruthless and bloodthirsty woman. In Wu Jing's eyes, everyone was food that could fill her stomach, so she wanted to eat everyone she saw. She just didn't know if she would want to eat the 9 netherworld phoenix in front of her. Chapter 2565, Strength Awakens, 2. However, it seemed that the fog phoenix had no intention of eating the black phoenix. While the 9 nether dark phoenix was restraining Wu Ling, Len Ruoxue sneaked up to Uncle Long and the others. She waved the cold shadow in her hand, trying to cut off the vines that were binding them. As soon as a vine was cut off, Wu Ling immediately felt the intense pain. It was only then that she noticed Len Ruoxue's movements and wanted to continue attacking her. Several vines had just been thrown out, but before they could touch Len Ruoxue, they were blocked by the 9 nether dark phoenix's long tail feathers. The vines felt that the phoenix that blocked their way was not to be trifled with, so they retreated in fear. However, the 9 nether dark phoenix seemed to be playing with them as she used her tail feathers to chase after them. The game of "You Chase Me" had just started when Wu Ice couldn't stand it anymore and roared, "Damned beast, what do you want?" Wu Qin was going crazy. The intense pain in her body continued to spread, and her heart felt as if it was being pricked by needles. One must know that these vines were a part of her body and also represented a part of her strength. Every time a vine was broken, she would lose at least 100 years of cultivation. How could she not feel heartache? More importantly, she was also in pain when a vine was broken. "Little flower, if you call me an animal again, I'll rape you." The 9 nether dark phoenix was very dissatisfied with the way Wu Yan had addressed her, and couldn't help but throw down some harsh words. Uncle Long and the others, who had already been rescued, were extremely horrified when they heard these words. This phoenix was so bold, it actually wanted to rape fog. Birds and plants. What a strong taste. Uncle Long and the others forgot about the pain and couldn't help but let their thoughts run wild. When she saw the awkward expression on their faces, as if they had heard something they shouldn't have, Len Ruoxue was even more speechless and confused. She didn't believe that the black phoenix would be interested in rhyme ice, so could she not say something that would easily cause people to misunderstand? However, looking at the black phoenix's disobedient and rebellious appearance, this was clearly impossible. As for Wu Xian, after hearing this, she was stunned for a long time before she recovered. She was furious. He was extremely angry, so angry that he wanted to cut the phoenix in front of him into 8 pieces. Fuck. She had lived for so long, but this was the first time she had heard someone tell her to rape herself. He was really too bold. Seeing that Wu Xiao was angry again, the Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix fearlessly explained, "Are you misunderstanding that I'm interested in you? Ha ha ha. You really like to think too much. When I said strong, I didn't mean the strong you think. What I want to say is, if you dare to be disrespectful to me again, I will pull out all your petals, cut off your vines, and turn you into a bare little flower. Oh. If you don't believe me, you can try." Wu Yan was so angry that she couldn't even say a complete sentence. She could only glare at the Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix. The Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix, on the other hand, looked at her affectionately. Uncle Long and the others were ashamed. They had misunderstood the bird. However, this black phoenix was really infuriating. Was it planning to anger the fog to death? They did not understand. He could have just attacked directly, why was there a need to do so? However, would the Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix tell them that she was no match for Fog Phoenix? Of course not. The purpose of its appearance was only to restrain the bitch, Wu Cheng, so as to buy some time for its master. At the same time, it also made Wu Cheng feel afraid and not dare to act rashly. The facts proved that this strategy was successful. Thanks Rhyme was so angry that it only knew how to tremble, and even forgot to attack. In addition, Wu Xian was somewhat cautious, so she naturally didn't dare to rashly make a move. However, even so, the Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix still didn't intend to let her go. Instead, he stirred up the fog from time to time, grabbing her flower petals and swinging her rattan. Looking at the Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix having fun and how Ripple was suppressing her anger, Len Ruoxue was at a loss for words. She turned to look at the demon. At this moment, the demon was standing with his eyes closed and not saying a word. His body was still flashing with dark purple electric sparks. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth in the surroundings was slowly gathering around him. He seemed to be brewing something. Even though Len Ruoxue wasn't sure, she felt a sense of uneasiness and frustration in her heart. In order to adjust her mood, Len Ruoxue could only vent her anger on the vines that were still waving wildly in the air. Arg! Damn it! Only then did she suddenly realize what kind of situation she was in. She had actually been so distracted by that stinky black bird that she had almost forgotten about the existence of Len Ruoxue and the others. At this moment, Len Ruoxue seemed to be challenging her authority by cutting down the vines, causing her to be enraged. Wu Jing commanded her vines to attack Len Ruoxue, but the Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix always appeared to stop her, preventing her from using her true strength. Mist Ripple's fire chi rushed to the top of her head, and the flames of anger on her body seemed to have become real. Looking at the Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix, who was relaxed, Mist Ripple couldn't bear it anymore and shouted, "You black bird, what do you want?" Damn it! She felt like she was going crazy. "I don't want anything. I just wanted to catch up with you." "Why, you don't welcome me?" The Nine-Netherworld Phoenix spoke as if he had been wronged. Len Ruoxue and the others felt sorry for him. However, Wu Yan did not sympathize with him. Instead, she said rather honestly, "I don't welcome you, but you'd better disappear from my sight immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." "What do you mean? Why don't you show me how impolite you are?" The Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix provoked her fearlessly and looked at Wu Chen with an expression that said, "What can you do to me?" When Wu Jing saw the other party's expression, she was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She wanted to be impolite to this phoenix, but when she thought of its master behind it, she had no choice but to suppress the anger in her heart. So what if you have a backer? She used to have someone backing her, but now. Thinking of her current situation, Wu Yan was sad and angry. This was clearly her territory, but she couldn't understand why she had to swallow her anger. Was it really because he was afraid of the other party's master? It was undeniable that that person was indeed a threat to her, but that guy couldn't come to the divine realm to find trouble with her for no reason, so Fog Ripple couldn't understand. What was she afraid of? However, no matter how she mentally prepared herself, she had to admit that since the beginning of chaos, that person had been an insurmountable mountain for her because that person would never pamper her as much as you did. That person was always looking for an opportunity to kill her, but unfortunately, with Ye's protection, he had never succeeded. However, that person's loathing for her was undoubted, just like how she loathed the other person. The two of them hated each other. Now that she had lost the protection of her imperial pet, although she really wanted to cut this rogue phoenix into 8 pieces, she didn't dare to make a move when she thought about how protective that person was. In addition, this black bird wasn't weak, and it had the corrosive talent that she hated. Chapter 2566 Strength Awakens, 3, Fuck. She had to endure it, alright? At the thought of this, Wu Jing's face was filled with resentment as she retracted all her vines and stopped her attacks. Since she was temporarily unable to attack Lin Ruoxue and the rest, she could not just watch as the other party caused her harm. However, the hatred in her heart for Lin Ruoxue only increased. More importantly, she could not understand why this black bird was helping Lin Ruoxue. However, at this moment, even if she was slow to react, she could tell that there was a 99% chance that this damned bird had something going on with Lin Ruoxue. Why are you helping Lin Ruoxue? Don't tell me you've taken a fancy to her. As soon as she thought of this, Wu Xiao couldn't help but ask. No, I didn't. The Netherworld prison replied without thinking. How could it dare to take a fancy to this little ancestor? It wasn't like he had lived long enough. When Ripple Mist heard what it said, she couldn't help but let out a long sigh. It was good that she didn't take a fancy to Lin Ruoxue. That way, even if she killed Lin Ruoxue, it shouldn't be a problem, right? Even though she still had some doubts in her heart, she had already started to make up her mind. It seemed like the other party didn't really want to stop her from killing Lin Ruoxue. He was probably just trying to create trouble for her. However, just as she finished thinking about it, she heard the 9 Nether Dark Phoenix say, I don't like her, but my master likes her, so I have to protect her. The truth was out. Pfft. Ripple Mist was so angry that she spat out a mouthful of blood. Forcefully swallowing the fishy sweetness in her mouth, Wu Yan said in disbelief, why would your master take a fancy to Lin Ruoxue? Fuck. This was really bad news, and Wu Yan felt like she was going crazy. She glanced at Lin Ruoxue's devastatingly beautiful face. Indeed, she had the potential to be a vixen. However, she still could not understand how the two of them had hooked up. This really made her depressed. She wanted to get rid of Lin Ruoxue so badly, even in her dreams. However, if that person were to interfere, she did not know if her plan to get rid of Lin Ruoxue would succeed. Right now, her only hope was that that person would be wary of the existence of the laws of heaven and earth and would not dare to come to the God world. Otherwise, it would be a huge problem. Thinking of Tsang, and thinking of that person, Wu Xiao was so depressed that her whole heart was entangled together. She deeply felt that Lin Ruoxue was her greatest nemesis. If not, why would all the people that she could not hook up with stand on Lin Ruoxue's side? She hated it. No. She would not allow such a thing to happen. Lin Ruoxue must die. Wu Xiao made up her mind and then pretended to be calm as she said to the 9 Nether Dark Phoenix, you said that my master has taken a fancy to her, but what proof do you have? Do you still need proof? The 9 Netherworld Phoenix blinked her bright black eyes and asked in confusion. Of course. What if you lie to me? You should know that Lin Ruoxue is my enemy. Who knows if you're using your master to pressure me because you've taken a fancy to her? Wu Jing said with an expression of disbelief. Do I need to lie to you about this? If you really don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. But if you want to kill her, you can only step over my dead body. The 9 Nether Dark Phoenix sneered, and his hooligan-like look was replaced by a serious one. Do you really want to go against me for a woman? Wu Xian asked in disbelief. It must be so. Otherwise, master will blame me. The 9 Netherworld Phoenix said helplessly. She glanced at her master from the corner of her eyes, wondering when her master would complete the transformation of dark power. Xiaohua seemed to be impatient. If that's the case, then don't blame me. Seeing that the 9 Nether Dark Phoenix had made up her mind, Wu Yan could only say this. Come on. Let me experience your current strength. The nine-nether dark phoenix said eagerly. Her black eyes were so excited that they sparkled like the stars in the night sky, charming and extraordinary. Thanks. After saying that, the nine-nether dark phoenix spat out a mouthful of dark flame at Wu Yao, who dodged in a hurry in fear. It was no joke to be touched by this corrosive dark flame. Moreover, the dark flame would immediately merge with the air as soon as it was spat out, making it impossible to guard against. Although she dodged the nine-nether dark phoenix's first wave of attack with a lingering fear, Wu Yan still felt uncomfortable with the petals. Furthermore, when she was fighting with the nine-nether dark phoenix, she did not dare to throw out her vines like how she had dealt with Leng Ruoxue and the others. Otherwise, wouldn't she be like a sheep entering the phoenix's mouth? It should be known that the nine-nether dark phoenix's body was also corrosive. If his vines really touched its body, he would definitely be the one in trouble. After thinking for a while, Wu Yan threw out countless flower petals. Each of the beautiful fiery red flower petals was only the size of a baby's fist. They were exceptionally beautiful when they gently floated in the air, but when they fell on a person's body, they would immediately enter the person's body like leeches and suck away the person's blood and vitality. It could be said that these petals and vines had the same effect, but these petals would not make the fog feel the pain like the vines. However, these petals were rare goods that could only be used once, so the fog could not use them indefinitely. This time, it was definitely a big deal. I didn't expect you to think so highly of me. Looking at the beautiful flower petals falling from the sky, the nine-nether dark phoenix smiled smugly. However, it was not afraid. Instead, it smiled at Leng Ruoxue and said, "Future Netherworld Empress, light a fire." All right. As Leng Ruoxue nodded her head, a small flame flew out from her crystal-like fingertips. When the purple flame with a tinge of red floated into the air, it suddenly expanded into a burning sea of fire, emitting a dazzling light. It instantly dried up the surrounding moisture, and the temperature in the air rose at the same time. When the falling petals floated around the sea of fire, they were directly absorbed and extinguished by the sea of fire, becoming a part of it. Not only that, the sea of fire seemed to have formed a vortex. The surrounding falling petals were all like moths flying into the fire, constantly drilling into the sea of fire. When Wu Yan saw this scene, she was so angry that she vomited blood. Damn it! Damn it! She was going crazy. Just as she was about to go crazy, the surrounding space suddenly changed again. Countless spiritual chi of heaven and earth rushed in from all directions, all of them drilling into the body of the standing demon. Soon, the almost solid spiritual chi wrapped the demon into a huge cocoon, emitting a dark light. Seeing this, Ripple's pupils suddenly shrank. Damn it! What was going on? As the ruler of the divine realm, although she had not been acknowledged by the universal bracelet and the god-protecting pagoda, she knew very well that the spiritual energy of the divine realm was rushing towards the land of demons, and it was gathering more and more. The dark sky was filled with lightning and thunder, and an endless pressure was pressing down heavily on the sky above the land of demons, making even her feel a little uncomfortable. At the same time, all the cultivators and beasts in the divine realm could sense that something was about to happen. Judging from the direction, it should be in the land of demons. For a time, all the experts could not help but teleport towards the land of demons. As soon as they arrived at the foot of the mountain in the land of demons, the masters felt that the pressure was obviously stronger than before. The dark clouds above the land of demons were getting thicker and thicker, and lightning bolts that were thicker than an adult's waist kept striking down from the sky. The masters didn't dare to go forward, so they could only stand at the foot of the mountain in a daze. After an unknown period of time, the pressure that made the powerhouses breathless seemed to have disappeared. It suddenly disappeared. The powerhouses at the foot of the mountain had just heaved a sigh of relief when the pressure suddenly appeared again, and it was even stronger than before. Many experts couldn't help but kneel down and worship. They didn't even dare to have any thoughts of resisting under such pressure. Right at this moment, an illusionary figure appeared in the sky that was covered in dark clouds. Although the illusionary figure was a little blurry, it still filled the entire sky, causing the hearts of everyone from the divine world, as well as beastie, to tremble violently. Those who were weaker could not withstand the pressure and directly fainted. Most of the people at the foot of the mountain in the land of demons instinctively lowered their heads. A few of the more courageous powerhouses only stole a glance and were dumbfounded on the spot, unable to come back to their senses for a long time. Not only was the shadow in the sky huge, but it also seemed to have 8 pairs of boundless black wings of light behind it. On the body of the shadow, there was a bloodthirsty aura of darkness, as if it was a demon from hell, which was creepy. The people and beasts of the divine realm all experienced a baptism of fear. However, the ones who felt it the most were Uncle Long and the others on the mountain in the land of evil demons. This tremendous aura and shocking scene was naturally created by the demon, and this was only the tip of the iceberg that the people of the immortal realm had seen. At this time, the demon had not really woken up, but it had already made Uncle Long and the others bow down in worship. Fortunately, they were mentally prepared and knew the identity of the demon. On the other hand, Wu Yan was completely dumbfounded. Not even in her dreams would she have thought that that person had been by Leng Ruoxu's side the entire time. This fact was a huge blow to her, causing her to be unable to regain her senses for a long time. The 9 Netherworld Phoenix looked at the dumbfounded Wu Xiao, then looked at the image in the sky that was gradually becoming clearer. It knew that its master had truly awakened his strength and returned. Although it was very happy, it knew that its master would definitely not be happy. At the thought of this, the 9 Nether Dark Phoenix could not help but steal a glance at Leng Ruoxue. Although Leng Ruoxue was expressionless, her beautiful eyes were filled with worry, and it revealed her true feelings. AI. This pair of unfortunate Mandarin ducks. The 9 Nether Dark Phoenix couldn't help but sigh. It was well aware of how its master would be treated when he recovered his strength. Moreover, this was its master's own choice. Therefore, it could only express its regret. Chapter 2567, Captured. 1. After sighing, the Black Phoenix turned its gaze to Wu Chen, in case Wu Chen was too agitated and did something desperate. However, it was obviously a little overdone, and Fog had yet to come back to its senses. But even so, it didn't dare to let its guard down. Otherwise, if the future Nether Empress were to lose even a single hair, it would definitely be the one in trouble. Faced with such a situation, even though Leng Ruoxue quickly regained her senses, the uneasiness in her heart grew. She did not know what would happen to the evildoer after he revealed his true strength. However, she knew that the evildoer was only doing this to protect himself. For a moment, Leng Ruoxue had mixed feelings in her heart. She wanted to see a demon looking down on the world, but at the same time, she was afraid. She felt conflicted. After an unknown period of time, Wu Xian finally woke up before the demon opened his eyes. However, she kept muttering, "This is impossible. This was impossible. No. This can't be real." Wu Ling screamed madly, refusing to believe what she had just seen. Then, she charged towards the demon who had yet to wake up. Leng Ruoxue and the Black Phoenix saw her and immediately stood in front of the demon like 2 war gods. "I'm going to kill you all." Wu Wan had gone completely mad. The huge flower did not hesitate as it charged towards Leng Ruoxue and the 9 Nether Dark Phoenix. At the same time, tens of thousands of vines were thrown out from the bottom of the flower, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws in an attempt to bind the 2 of them. In order to protect the evildoer, Leng Ruoxue and the 9 Netherworld Dark Phoenix did not dare to dodge. The cold shadow in Leng Ruoxu's hand waved non-stop, unleashing its divine might and cutting off countless vines. However, there were too many vines. In the blink of an eye, Leng Ruoxue and the 9 Netherworld Dark Phoenix were tightly bound by several vines. Seeing this scene, Wu Xiao laughed in an extremely pleased manner and said fiercely, "Leng Ruoxue, darned black bird, I'm going to kill you." As Wu Xian spoke, the vines wrapped around her tighter and tighter. Not far away, Uncle Long and the others were anxious. However, before they could rush over, more vines attacked them. Uncle Long and the others tried their best to dodge the vine attacks, but this time, Ripple was determined to do it. It threw out too many vine dragons. When they dodged one side, the other side quickly wrapped around them. It was impossible to guard against. This situation made them even more anxious. Many of them had become prisoners of the vines again. At this moment, their only hope was that the evildoer would wake up as soon as possible. Unfortunately, even after they had all become the captives of the fog, the demons still did not wake up. Wu Xiao was proud. The experts at the foot of the mountain could hear his laughter clearly. However, they didn't know what had happened on the mountain, so they didn't dare to continue to investigate. I told you all that you're dead today. After she had laughed enough, Wu Xian turned her gaze to Leng Ruoxu's beautiful face and said. His gaze on Leng Ruoxue was burning with passion. Leng Ruoxue was well aware of this fellow was treating her as food. However, she couldn't guarantee that Wu Jing would be able to eat her up. Thanks, you don't have anything else to say now, do you? If you have the ability, run. You guys keep running. Ha ha ha. You won't be able to escape. It was unknown if Wu Jing had really suffered a huge shock, but those words seemed to be mumbling to herself, yet it also seemed to be directed at Leng Ruoxue and the others. However, Leng Ruoxue and the rest ignored her. The 9 Nether Dark Phoenix was even looking at her with disdain, not even bothering to look at her face. You damn bird, didn't you say you were going to force me? Come on. I'll be waiting. Wu Xiao continued to provoke the 9 Nether Dark Phoenix, but the 9 Nether Dark Phoenix only softly spat out 2 words, idiot. He had angered Wu Jing again. Who are you calling an idiot? You're my prisoner now. Your life and death are in my hands, and you still don't behave. Do you not want to live anymore? Wu Xiao was very angry. The more she looked at the 9 Nether Dark Phoenix, the more she found it an eyesore. I want to live. But I don't think I'm your prisoner. Don't forget, my master is about to recover his strength. At that time, it's not certain who will live and who will die. The 9 Nether Dark Phoenix sneered. He had already cursed all 18 generations of Wuli's ancestors in his heart. However, he only reacted after he had cursed. That old witch, Wuli, had no ancestors at all. It was equivalent to him cursing in vain. Upon hearing its words, Wu Han laughed even more wildly. Ha ha ha. You're all in my hands, so even if your master has recovered his strength, what can he do to me? She admitted that she was a little afraid of that person, but so many years had passed, and her strength had increased by a lot. Therefore, she did not think that the other party could do anything to her easily. Moreover, she had the protection of the laws of heaven and earth, so she was absolutely fearless. She was very confident that the person would not dare to kill her. So you're saying that you're not afraid of the evildoers because we're your hostages? Leng Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and asked with an innocent look. Of course, Leng Ruoxue, I will definitely treat you well and let you personally witness them being eaten by me one by one before it's your turn. How is it? I've taken good care of you, right? Said Ripple with a smile. She was in a good mood after capturing Leng Ruoxue and the others, and her tone became gentler. More importantly, a living Leng Ruoxue was much more useful than a dead one. Yes, do I need to thank you? Leng Ruoxue replied calmly. The moment she spoke, she felt an obvious pain in her body, as if something sharp had pierced into her body. Then, her blood was flowing out rapidly. Wu Xian, who was opposite her, had a look of enjoyment on her face, as if she was tasting a delicious meal. Leng Ruoxue knew that this fellow was sucking on her blood. However, Wu Jing stopped after sucking a little and said with a satisfied expression, as expected of the chaotic divine body. This blood is delicious. Leng Ruoxue, don't worry, I won't kill you immediately. I'll keep you alive to produce blood for me. I'll kill you after I've squeezed out the last drop of blood from your body. Wu Xian said with a proud expression. She thought that after saying these words, Leng Ruoxue would be afraid or have some abnormal reaction. Who knew that she would still remain calm as if nothing had happened? This made Wu Xian puzzled. You should also drink some of my blood. My blood is also very delicious. Suddenly, the 9 Netherworld Phoenix requested shamelessly. Get lost. Who wants to suck your blood? When Wu Jing heard this, she was so angry that her whole flower trembled violently again. She couldn't help but curse in her heart. Can this guy's blood be eaten? How dirty. One had to know that she had a rather high requirement for blood. Only the fiery blood of the people of the divine realm was most suitable for her. Oh! Who would he eat next? After roaring at the 9 Netherworld Dark Phoenix, Wu Yen started to care about the order of her meal. Her beautiful eyes swept across Uncle Long and the others before finally fixing on Dongfang Yu. Walking in front of Dongfang Yu, Wu Ling smiled and said, Dongfang Yu, do you think you can escape from my grasp? Humph. You're still caught by me. Chapter 2568, Captured, 2. When Dongfang Yu heard this, he returned a faint smile and turned his head away in disgust, not looking at the fog ice at all. It was as if the fog ice was something dirty that would pollute his eyes. Dongfang Yu, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Dongfang Yu's attitude infuriated Ripple Mist again. However, he still remained expressionless in the face of the fiendish Ripple Mist. I'm going to kill you. Wu Jing continued to roar, and her vines danced wildly in the air, showing her anger. You've been saying this for many years. But I'm still alive and well. Finally, Dongfang Yu was willing to give her a reaction. When Wu Mo heard this, she choked. At this moment, she heard Ling Ruox's voice, she wants to kill you, but can she bear to? Turning around, Wu Jing walked back to Ling Ruox's side and said, from what you've said, you seem to understand me quite well. It's just average. Ling Ruoxue had no intention of being humble. Then tell me, will I kill you in a fit of anger? River Ripple asked, suppressing her anger. Ling Ruoxue's I've already seen through you expression made her extremely unhappy. Who knew that the moment she finished speaking, she would receive a huge amount of disdain from Ling Ruoxue. Then, she heard Ling Ruoxue say indifferently, didn't you just say that you would keep me alive to produce blood for you? How could you bear to kill me? God Lord Fog Ripple, I didn't think that your memories would deteriorate so quickly. You've just finished speaking, and you've already forgotten? God Lord Fog Ripple asked. Ling Ruoxue had a look of realization. This expression almost drove Ripple of Mist mad. After taking a few deep breaths, Wu Xian forced herself to calm down. She did not want to fall for the trap of this cunning woman, Ling Ruoxue. However, no matter how she consoled herself, when she saw Ling Ruox's fearless and beautiful face, she felt as if a huge stone was blocking her heart. The feeling of not being able to go up or down made her feel extremely aggrieved. Seeing that Wu Ling had stopped speaking, Ling Ruoxue tactfully shut her mouth and stopped angering her. After a long time. Ling Ruoxue, you're dead meat. Wu Qing gritted her teeth. She was already so angry that she didn't know what to say. In her eyes, Ling Ruoxue was a tough nut to crack, and threats were useless. He didn't scare her either. So, she didn't know what kind of attitude she should use to treat this hateful woman in front of her. What was even more unbearable was that after Ling Ruoxue heard what she said, she suggested with an innocent face, can't we change the way we speak? I'm getting calluses in my ears from hearing this. Ling Ruoxue, you're really not afraid of death? Ripple asked, grinding her teeth. I'm scared. However, I don't think you can kill me. Ling Ruoxue provoked him on purpose. Wu Wan was driven mad by her words. If she could, she wanted to kill Ling Ruoxue right now. However, she really couldn't bear to do so. One had to know that the chaotic divine body was extremely rare. Without Ling Ruoxue, she didn't know when she would be able to meet the next person with the chaotic divine body. I didn't say anything wrong, right? Seeing that the other party was at a loss for words, Ling Ruoxue continued to provoke him. Thanks when Uncle Long and the others saw this, they really didn't know what to say. Shuai was clearly deliberately running into Fog Ripple. And Shuai's purpose was definitely to draw Wu Chen's attention back from them. To put it bluntly, it was all to protect them. At that moment, everyone felt warm in their hearts. Although they had all been captured, with Shuai around, they were not afraid. At worst, they would just die. If they died, they could go to the Nine Nether prison, which was the Dark Mistress territory. They wouldn't suffer any losses either, and they could still eat and drink there. Thinking of this, everyone became even calmer. At this moment, the fog hand pointed at Uncle Long and the others and shouted, "Then do you believe that I will kill them right now?" Leng Ruoxua blinked, then blinked again before saying, "I don't believe it." "Why don't you believe me?" This time, Wu Yan was really angry. Her roar broke, and her sharp voice frightened many experts at the foot of the mountain. "You don't have the time to kill them," Leng Ruoxua said confidently. Not only was Fog stunned by these words, even Uncle Long and the others were dumbfounded. These words had a deep meaning. However, they did not know what it was. Could it be that the mistress of the dark world had awakened? At the thought of this possibility, Uncle Long and the others were all excited. Wu Yan had also thought of this possibility. Her eyes glanced at the demon with uncertainty and saw that his eyes were still closed. His long eyelashes covered his eyelids, leaving 2 rows of shadows around his eyes. She clearly hadn't woken up yet. After taking a look, Wu Jing was relieved. She could not scare herself, and she could not fall into Leng Ruoxua's trap. But just as she thought this, suddenly, she felt a gurgling sound from the bottom of the flower's core, which was her transformed stomach. She didn't know why, but there was an instant pain there, as if she was going to relieve herself. Fuck! What was going on? After cultivating for so many years, she was so powerful that she didn't need to relieve herself. But now, she wanted to go to the toilet. What was going on? Wu Chen was burning with anger. His fiery red eyes instantly glared at Leng Ruoxua like a sharp blade as he roared fiercely, "Did you do it? You actually poisoned me." Although she said this, Wu Yan still couldn't believe it. When did this happen? And what kind of poison was this? One had to know that she was a poisonous flower, and ordinary poison had no effect on her. But now, she felt quite uncomfortable. Upon hearing that Wu Xian was suspected to have been poisoned, Uncle Long and the rest looked at Leng Ruoxua with admiration. Shuai was amazing. He had actually unknowingly poisoned that old witch, Wu Chen, he. It really vented his hatred. Thinking of this, they couldn't help but laugh. Hearing the laughter, Wu Yan was even more annoyed, but her stomach was really in pain. She looked around but couldn't find a hidden place. It was all because of their previous sneak attacks and battles. A few mountains in the land of demons had been razed to the ground, and all the trees had been burned. Now, there was almost nothing in the way that could be seen in the distance. If she really wanted to find a place to relieve herself, then she would definitely be exposed. This fact made Wu Chen even more frantic. At this moment, Leng Ruoxua saw that Mist Ripple was feeling rather uncomfortable, so she kindly explained, "I didn't poison you. I only poisoned myself, and you sucked my blood. That's why you fell for it." Leng Ruoxua's words were said in a carefree manner, but to Ripple's ears, it was as if a demon had come knocking on her door. She really hated this woman in front of her to death. "What drug did you give yourself?" Wu Xian asked fiercely. "Don't worry, it's not poison. I just took some digestive pills. To put it bluntly, it'll make me have diarrhea." Leng Ruoxua answered honestly. "Damn it. What are you doing with digestive pills?" Wu Jing felt that she would be driven mad by Leng Ruoxua's logic one day. No way. She had to get rid of this woman as soon as possible. Otherwise, she might die of anger. Chapter 2569, Captured, 3. I've been having indigestion these days. I'm a little constipated. Leng Ruoxua said, a little embarrassed. Constipated? Fuck. Ripple shouted. She had never heard of gods being constipated. This woman must be messing with her on purpose. Ripple of Mist instantly thought things through and became even angrier. She glared at Leng Ruoxue with fire-spitting eyes and roared, "Give me the antidote." Fuck. She couldn't take it anymore. There's no antidote. How can there be an antidote for a pill that has been digested? Leng Ruoxue said innocently. Her face was red as though it was written, "This has nothing to do with me." How can there be no antidote? Wu Jing didn't believe this at all. Her intuition told her that Leng Ruoxue was deliberately not handing over the antidote so that she could embarrass her. "I'll be fine after a few diarrhea. Why do I need an antidote?" Leng Ruoxue looked at Wu Jing as if she was an idiot and asked in amusement. "I don't want to have diarrhea now." Rhyme gritted her teeth. If she could, she wanted to tear Leng Ruoxue into pieces and eat her. "I'm afraid that's not possible. I ate it because I was constipated." "So, how could you not have diarrhea?" Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. "Then why are you fine? You didn't have diarrhea." When Wu Jing saw Leng Ruoxue's lively appearance, her heart felt stifled. This fellow must be lying to her. "My constipation is too serious, and the pill didn't work. I thought the pill had expired. But now, it seemed that it was still useful. Hurry up and find a place to relieve yourself. Otherwise, it'll be too unsightly," Leng Ruoxue suggested. "You don't have to worry about this." Rhyme's face was red as she shouted at the top of her lungs. After shouting, she searched around and still couldn't make up her mind. However, her stomach was getting more and more uncomfortable. She really couldn't stand it. Moreover, this was the first time she had suffered from diarrhea in her life, so she was quite at a loss. "Forget it, I'll just find a random place." This could not go on. Wu Jing let go of her pride and noble self-esteem. She decided to settle her physical needs first before coming back to deal with Leng Ruoxue and the others. This time, she would not let these people off, including Leng Ruoxue. After making up her mind, Wu Qin directly teleported away. Seeing that she had really left, the Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix blinked her big black eyes and asked with a speechless expression, "She left us behind and found a place to take a dump. What should we do? What else can we do?" "Of course, well wait," Leng Ruoxue said nonchalantly. "Ah. Aren't you going to think of a way to escape?" The Nine-Netherworld Phoenix couldn't help but ask. "Why don't you try to escape?" Leng Ruoxue glanced at the vine that was binding the Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix tightly. "I'd better stay here." The Nine-Nether Dark Phoenix was very practical. Before she was caught, it was not easy to break even a single vine, let alone now. Just as the two of them were chatting, Wu Han, who had finished satisfying his Bodis needs, returned. When she saw Leng Ruoxue, the anger in Ripple's heart rose again. Then, she flashed in front of Leng Ruoxue. "Is there something?" Leng Ruoxue pretended to be confused and asked. "I'm going to kill you." This was the same sentence that Leng Ruoxue was sick of hearing. As expected, Leng Ruoxue rolled her eyes at her and said with a face full of dissatisfaction, "Don't you have anything new to say? Do you need me to teach you something new? Die." Having experienced something she had never experienced before, the hatred she felt towards Leng Ruoxue had multiplied. Thus, she had changed her mind and wanted to start with Leng Ruoxue. With that, she stretched out the tiny straw from the flower pot in front of Leng Ruoxue. Looking at the densely packed straw that was wriggling non-stop, Leng Ruoxue felt nauseated. Couldn't this thing look cuter? She would rather die in the hands of cute, fluffy little animals than become food for these disgusting straws. It was a pity that Wu Jing could not hear her inner thoughts. After the thin straw smelled the fresh blood of Leng Ruoxue, it became even more excited. The straw seemed to have a mind of its own as it clamored and danced wildly, reaching out its demonic claws towards Leng Ruoxue. Seeing this, Uncle Long and the others hurriedly cursed at Wu Jing in an attempt to distract her. "Thanks, Wu Qin, you unloved old woman. What kind of ability do you have to bully a little girl? Wu Qin, you're so evil. No wonder Master Yu doesn't like you." Wu-chan, you ugly freak. I've never seen an old woman uglier than you. You're destined to be unloved in this life. Everyone was cursing at her at the same time, rubbing salt into her wounds. They were all rubbing salt into her wounds, making the veins on her forehead pop. Then, she watched as she used her vines to stuff the mouths of Uncle Long and the others. Only then did her ears calm down. Rhyme, ugly, old woman, no one loves you. Ha ha ha. The 9 Nether Dark Phoenix, who could still speak, repeated the words that Uncle Long and the others had just said to her. She laughed wantonly. You shut up. Shut up. Ripple Mist shouted. However, the 9 Nether Dark Phoenix was not under her control, so the Black Phoenix continued to repeat these words in her ear noisily, which made her angry. However, she still had a trace of rationality left in her. She still set her target on Leng Ruoxue. The countless straw that had been stretched out reached Leng Ruoxue in an instant. Just as they were about to pierce deep into her skin, she suddenly felt an extremely intense pain. Then, she saw that all her straw had broken into 2 and fell to the ground. The straws that fell to the ground weren't completely dead yet. They kept wriggling on the ground. Then, a pair of big feet stepped on the straws, and the tiny straws that were still moving stubbornly disappeared from the world. Detestable. Who did this? She endured the pain and raised her head. What entered her eyes was a pair of cold black eyes. Those black eyes seemed to have a vortex that wanted to suck people in, giving people a dark and cold feeling. It was him. He was awake. The fog Ripple was greatly shocked. The man in front of her had made such a big commotion, so why did he wake up without a sound? Ripple of Fog couldn't understand. The awakened evildoer didn't give her any time to think. A few black light blades flew out from his hands and cut off the vines that were binding Leng Ruoxue and the others. Uncle Long and the others, who had regained their freedom, quickly gathered around the evildoer. The vines seemed to be afraid of the evildoer's innate pressure and retreated back to the side of the fog. Do you really want to go against me for this, woman? After forcing herself to calm down, Wu Yan asked with a slightly nervous heart. So what if I am? The demon said indifferently. Aren't you afraid of the punishment from the laws of heaven and earth? Wu Chen threatened. In order to protect my woman, what's the big deal about the punishment of the laws of heaven and earth? I won't let you have the chance to hurt Shuai. The demon said coldly as he looked at Leng Ruoxue's injuries. At the same time, he blamed himself for awakening too late and causing Shuai to be injured. Leng Ruoxue sensed the evildoer's thoughts and gave him a comforting look, indicating that she was fine. Wu Yan looked at the 2 people in front of her who were flirting with each other as if there was no one else around, and she felt quite upset. Fuck. This adulterous couple. It was really an eyesore. Fog Ripple was burning with jealousy, but before she could make a move, the evildoer, who was bent on avenging his woman, directly launched an attack at Fog Ripple. When Fog Ripple saw this, she was so frightened that she quickly dodged. In the past, she had been taught a lesson by this man many times, and this had left a shadow in her heart. So, even if her strength was much stronger than before, even if she did a lot of self-consoling, when facing this demon, she still felt extremely pressured. The demon's attacks were swift and fierce, not giving her any time to think or catch her breath. Her own vines were completely vulnerable in front of the mistress of the dark world who had already recovered her full strength. In the face of this situation, Ripple was filled with hatred. More importantly, the man in front of her closed in on her step by step. His attacks were fast, ruthless, and accurate. He did not care about their past relationship at all. He was determined to kill her. This kind of result was something she had not expected. You really don't care about our years of friendship and want to stand up for this woman? Wu Chen, who didn't have the slightest advantage, deliberately spoke in a flirtatious manner and even took the opportunity to look at Leng Ruoxue provocatively. She was betting that Leng Ruoxue did not know about her relationship with the evildoer. Unfortunately, Leng Ruoxue did not fall for it. She did not even bother to look at her. Instead, the demon answered honestly, "Do we have any old feelings?" How come I didn't know? From what I remember, I've always wanted to kill you since the day I met you. However, you had that idiot yes support and you rarely appeared in front of me, so I didn't have many chances to kill you. But today, don't think that I'll let you go. After saying that, the demon attacked even more fiercely. The black light balls in his hands expanded into a huge black ball in midair. The ball-shaped light rings expanded and then contracted. Then, with a few loud bangs, the ball exploded in front of the fog. The vines around the fog were instantly blown into pieces. Even the beautiful fiery red petals on the outermost layer of the flower were blown into pieces. It was a terrible sight. Wu Xiao was badly injured. Seeing that she had been injured, Mist was furious. She could not accept the fact that she had been injured so badly in just a short confrontation. In fact, after so many years, Wu Yan had been trying to use various means to improve her strength every day, and her strength had indeed improved greatly. When she faced the demon, she would not have been defeated so easily. However, her fear of the demon was too deep, so when she fought with the demon, she always had stage fright involuntarily. This gave the demon the opportunity to hit the target in one strike. Of course, the demon was not willing to let go of such an opportunity. Each of his moves could basically be regarded as fatal, but Wu Ai's strength was much stronger than before, so it was not easy to kill her. However, under the constant pressure of the demon's killer moves, Rai Mice gradually found the strength to resist, let alone fight back. Chapter 2570, Breaking Up the Couple. 1. Under the pressure of the evildoer, the Fog Phoenix became more and more embarrassed. However, the evildoer did not seem to have any intention of letting the Fog Phoenix off. Very soon, the Fog Phoenix had thrown away her armor and was completely defeated. The thick, fiery red petals on the huge flower had fallen into pieces. The Fog Phoenix at this time was in sharp contrast to her previous high-spirited self. Even so, the demon did not stop. Are you really going to kill me? When the demon attacked Fog Eyes from the air to the ground and was about to make a ruthless move, the angry and frightened Fog Eyes quickly questioned him loudly. How can this be fake? The demon sneered. No. You can't kill me. The laws of heaven and earth will not let you off. Wu Yan warned loudly. The blood in her fiery red eyes became more and more red, and the look in her eyes was somewhat crazy. This was her last resort. If the other party still insisted on doing things her way, she was afraid that she would really die. At this moment, fear that she had never felt before had already spread through her body. She had never felt so close to death before. Do you think I'm afraid of the rules of heaven and earth? The demon continued to sneer and glanced at Wu Chen as if he was looking at a dead person, as if she had just told a big joke. The rules of heaven and earth will punish you. The mist used the laws of the world as a shield, but the demon was clearly unmoved. He said in an even colder voice, I also want to see what kind of punishment the heaven-earth law will give me. As he finished speaking, the black nether power in the demon's hand began to condense, and it grew larger and larger. At this moment, Wu Ai's face grew paler and paler. Looking at the eerie black ball of nether power, Wu Ais felt despair, and couldn't help but shout in her heart, Laws of heaven and earth, save me quickly. The only thing she could count on now was the laws of heaven and earth. Otherwise, she would only be left with death. However, why had the damned laws of the world not appeared yet? Wu Xiao was a little anxious. The ball of dark power was also slowly gathering until it was the size of a baby's fist. The demon then threw the ball of dark power in his hand at the fog, and the fog closed her eyes in despair. At this moment, a slightly aged voice sounded in everyone's ears. Stop! You can't kill her. The melodious voice seemed to have come from the sky, and it felt so far away from them. However, it was just as they had said. The black ball of underworld power had encountered resistance and could not move forward before it had even touched the fog. When the fog heard this voice, a huge stone in its heart was finally lifted. Fortunately, his life was saved. With the interference of the laws of heaven and earth, she believed that this despicable man in front of her would not be able to kill her even if he wanted to. Wu Xiao was relieved. However, the evildoer was not in a good mood. Although he knew that the regulations of the heaven and earth would meddle in other people's business, when that guy really appeared, he still felt depressed. He shouted at the sky in a bad mood, "Mind your own business. I'm following the will of the heavens. You can't kill her." The heaven-earth law said somewhat stubbornly, its tone full of helplessness. Clearly, this man in front of it gave it a headache. What if I have to kill him? The demon probed. In reality, although he wanted to, he knew that it would be very difficult for him to kill her. It was not that he could not kill her, but as long as the laws of heaven and earth were present, he could forget about killing her. The laws of heaven and earth would never allow him to commit murder in the immortal realm. He was well aware of this. I will stop you. The laws of heaven and earth were silent for a long time before speaking. Do you really have to do this? The demon's face darkened as he asked unhappily. Thanks, I have no choice. You can't interfere with the divine realm's matters. Don't break the rules. The heaven-earth law said indifferently. Demon, forget it. Let this woman off for the time being. Upon hearing this, Len Ruoxue was afraid that the demon would start a fight with the laws of heaven and earth, so she could only play the peacemaker. She did not wish for the demon to be punished because of fog. Shuer, this woman is a disaster. Seeing that Shuer was about to release him, the demon couldn't help but remind her. I know that she's badly injured now. I'm afraid that she won't be able to harm us for a while. So, I'll spare her life for the time being. Len Ruoxue laughed lightly, then turned to Fog Ripple and said, Wuchen, I won't kill you today. Look at how kind I am, right? Let's get along well. Len Ruoxue's words were said in a carefree manner. The magnanimous expression on her face fully displayed her kindness. However, in reality, she was not a saint. She merely did not wish for the demon to clash with the regulations of heaven and earth because of the fog ice. Otherwise, who knew what crime the regulations of heaven and earth in charge of the heavenly punishment would pin on the demon? She did not dare to take the risk. Moreover, Wu Yan's injuries were not light. Even if he really wanted to find trouble with her, he still had to see if she had the ability to do so. So for now, they might really be able to live in peace and not interfere with each other. This was also what Len Ruoxue needed the most at the moment. As for the future, it would be a battle between her and Wu Yan. As long as she was given time. After the demon heard Len Ruoxue's words, he nodded his head unwillingly, all right. For Shuer's sake, I won't kill this evil woman. When Ripple Mist heard this, she glared hatefully at Len Ruoxue and the demon, then teleported away. Taking advantage of the fact that the laws of heaven and earth were making decisions for him, if he didn't cower now, when would he? When Uncle Long and the others saw that the mist ripple had disappeared, they were filled with regret. What a pity. Just a little bit more. How good would it be if this scourge was eliminated? Then, the divine realm would also stop. It was a pity that with the interference of the laws of the world, they knew that their thoughts could not be realized. After she left, the demon looked up at the sky and shouted, that woman has already left. You can leave too. There was no reply from the sky for a long time after he finished speaking. Just when everyone thought that the laws of heaven and earth had left, a sinister voice suddenly came from the sky, I should leave, but you can't stay either. Hee hee. As soon as he finished speaking, the demon was immediately enveloped by a ball of light that emitted 5-colored light. Seeing this, the demon struggled and shouted, damn it, let me go. Freak. Len Ruoxue also looked at the evildoer worriedly. She wanted to get close to him but was blocked by something. She could only look up at the sky. Mistress of the dark world, you should be punished for sneaking into the divine world. You should go back to where you came from. This isn't a place you should be. The laws of heaven and earth said. Seeing this, the demon wanted to curse, but before he could open his mouth, his body seemed to be sucked in by something and he couldn't move. In an instant, the 5-colored ball of light emitted a dazzling light. It was so bright that Leng Ruoxue and the rest could not even open their eyes. When they opened their eyes, the five-colored ball of light and the demon had already disappeared. Freak! A monster! Leng Ruoxue shouted, feeling extremely uneasy. However, she did not respond. Damn the laws of heaven and earth, where did you put this monster? Leng Ruoxue saw that no one was responding and could only roar towards the sky. Chapter 2571, Breaking Up the Couple, 2. Just when she thought that the heaven-earth law would not respond to her, the heaven-earth law suddenly spoke. He should be punished for coming to the divine realm without permission. I only sent him back to where he should be. You all better take care of yourselves. With that, the laws of heaven and earth finally disappeared completely, and the originally gloomy sky returned to its usual blue. In fact, the sky was even exceptionally clear. Damn it, don't go. Return that demon to me. Leng Ruoxue roared towards the sky as tears rolled down her face uncontrollably. Evildoer, was the evildoer going to leave just like that? Was this the punishment for a monster who had recovered his strength? Why? Why can't a monster come to the immortal realm? Why did she have to send him back to where he was supposed to be? Damn it! Leng Ruoxue was extremely furious. She felt that the rules of heaven and earth were too unfair to evildoers. This was clearly racial discrimination. Leng Ruoxue was filled with hatred, but she couldn't even defeat Wu Xiao. At this moment, Leng Ruoxue blamed herself. If it wasn't for the fact that she was too weak, why would this demon be forced to reveal his strength and attract the laws of heaven and earth? Wu Qian was her enemy, and now the law of the world was also her enemy. It was the enemy who separated her from the demon. She dared to separate her from the demon, She would not let go of the laws of heaven and earth. At this moment, unparalleled hatred filled Leng Ruoxue's entire body. It was as if she had been submerged in hell. Her entire body was emitting a frosty aura that made one's heart tremble. When Uncle Long and the others saw this, their faces turned pale. This time, they really didn't know how to comfort Shui or sob. They didn't even dare to go near her. The temperature around Shui was too low. Seeing that Uncle Long and the others were hesitating, the nine-nether dark phoenix gave them a disdainful look. She flew to Leng Ruoxue and wanted to comfort her on behalf of her master. However, before she could put this thought into practice, a light suddenly flashed and the nine-nether dark phoenix disappeared in front of everyone. They took a look and saw that the phoenix had escaped. He had become a deserter, yet he still dared to look down on them. Uncle Long and the others couldn't stand the Black Phoenix's behavior, so they turned their eyes to Ming Ji and the other three. Minga and the others felt their hair stand on end under their stares, but none of them said a word. Uncle Long was so anxious that he quickly gave the four men a look, but they didn't understand. Uncle Long, are your eyes cramping? Minga walked to Uncle Long's side and couldn't help but ask in a low voice. Your eyes are the one that's cramping up. I just want you to go and persuade Shui. Uncle Long said through gritted teeth. How should I persuade him? Ming Ji didn't understand. Uncle Long and the others were so close to Leng Ruoxue, why would she still ask them to persuade her? Would their words work? Just tell Shui that your mistress of the dark world is fine. Don't let her worry. Uncle Long said after thinking for a while. It's definitely not a big deal, but the pain of lovesickness is inevitable. Ming Ji understood. He was quite clear that the laws of heaven and earth could not bear to make things too difficult for his lord. After all, they were of the same origin. However, as long as the laws of heaven and earth stopped his lord from coming to the divine world, it would be enough to kill him. AI. While the future Netherworld Empress was in a state of depression, his lord might cause a ruckus on the other side. As soon as Ming Ji thought of this, he felt very conflicted. Furthermore, looking at Leng Ruoxue's current state, it was obvious that she hated the laws of heaven and earth. She and his lord were both restless. If the two of them joined hands and wanted to rebel, would the laws of heaven and earth be able to withstand it? For some reason, Ming Ji was looking forward to it. AI. Then you can go and say this to Schwer. Uncle Long sighed and urged. You can also say that. Minga gave Uncle Long a sidelong glance and said honestly. Thanks, I'm just scared. Schwer is feeling sad, Uncle Long said without any backbone. I'm sorry, I'm scared too. Minga said, looking frightened. Uncle Dragon was so angry that he pointed at Ming Ge and couldn't say a complete sentence for a long time. Ming Ge was still calm. In reality, compared to Leng Ruoxue, he was more worried about his lord. The destructive power of his lord. Incomparable. The laws of heaven and earth have taken her master back to the Nine Nether prison. Who knows what terrible things will happen? Ming Ge was well aware of this, but there was nothing he could do. The truth was just as he had thought. The demon who had been forcibly brought back to the Nine Nether prison by the laws of heaven and earth was pacing back and forth in his hall angrily. Mu Li and the others were accompanying him with cold sweat all over their bodies. No one knew why their master had suddenly returned and why he had returned. Although they were very curious, no one dared to ask, or else they might die. Wu. His lord's expression was unsightly. Looking at his expression, Mu Li could not help but wonder if her lord had been dumped by Leng Ruoxue. Otherwise, why would he? He didn't dare to think further. The only thing he could pray for was that all his guesses were wrong. Otherwise, the Nine Nether prison would be in deep trouble. Just as Mu Li's thoughts were running wild, a ball of light suddenly appeared in the middle of the hall. Mu Li and the others looked at it and immediately raised their vigilance to stare at the uninvited ball of light. Then, they heard a "I-O." A large pitch-black bird fell to the ground. "Mou? Isn't this the Nine Netherworld phoenix that has an eye on the top of her master's head?" Mu Li and the others rubbed their eyes to confirm. They looked at their master, then at the Nine Nether Dark Phoenix, who was rubbing her butt on the ground. They didn't know what to say, and the doubts in their hearts grew deeper. "What are you looking at? Hurry up and help this lord up." The Nine Netherworld Phoenix didn't feel the tension in the air. He looked at Mu Li and the others, who were standing like wooden pillars, and shouted angrily. "Ugh!" Mu Li looked at the Nine Nether Dark Phoenix, who was acting like a master, and helped him up speechlessly. He kindly reminded him, "The lord is in a bad mood, don't be noisy." "Arg! I've forgotten about it." The Nine Nether Dark Phoenix said, obviously having realized it only after a while. There was still a look of lingering fear on its face. It sneaked a glance at its master, and tactfully closed its mouth. Seeing this, Mu Li laughed in his heart. It looked like something had happened. However, it was impossible to ask his master, and he didn't dare to ask. Thinking of this, he grabbed the Nine Nether Dark Phoenix's wings and quietly carried him out of the hall. The Nine Netherworld Dark Phoenix rubbed its wings after it was freed. It looked at Mu Li with a bitter expression and said unhappily, "Why are you pulling me? You're really too rough. I have something to ask you." Mu Li didn't keep him in suspense and said directly. "You want to ask about Master?" The Nine Netherworld Phoenix wasn't stupid, and she saw through his intention with a single glance. "If you know, then tell me the truth. What happened?" Mu Li asked in a low voice. Hearing this, the Nine Nether Dark Phoenix looked at Mu Li as if he was an idiot, as if he had asked something he shouldn't have. He stared at him for a long time before saying, "Didn't you notice the strength of our Lord?" Chapter 2572, Breaking Up the Couple, 3, I didn't notice. Mu Li was a little shocked. The moment their master returned, she exuded a heavy resentment that made it difficult for people to approach her. They could only accompany her in fear. How could they think of so much? Master's strength has recovered. The Nine Netherworld Phoenix sighed. It didn't have much hope for the intelligence of the man in front of it. "Isn't that a good thing?" Mu Li said with some excitement. He had long been looking forward to recovering his strength in the morning. He had been waiting for this day for a long time. As expected, this man's intelligence could not be counted on. The Nine Netherworld Phoenix couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. Then, she asked carefully, you think this is a good thing? Isn't that so? Mu Li blinked, not quite understanding what the 9 nether dark phoenix meant. It might be a good thing for you, but not for his lord. The 9 netherworld phoenix said with a face full of disappointment. Mu Li, who had always been proud of his intelligence, actually raised his head and asked with a face of innocence, why? This question successfully drove the 9 nether dark phoenix mad. It raised its huge claw and punched Mu Li's head. It was so painful that Mu Li's tears flowed out. After that, Mu Li still asked innocently, why did you hit me? I'm worried about your IQ. The 9 netherworld phoenix sighed. It had only just realized that the man in front of it was an idiot. Ugh. This didn't sound like a compliment. Mu Li was depressed. He admitted that his reaction today was a little bad, but it didn't feel good to be despised by a bird. After taking a few deep breaths to force herself to calm down, Mu Li said pitifully, Master Feng, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't keep me in suspense. I'm worried to death. Idiot. Once Master's power is restored, he will not be able to go to the divine realm frequently. Understand? The 9 nether dark phoenix continued sighing, and the look in her eyes became more and more profound. Yup. Why didn't I think of this? What should we do now? Mu Li had no idea what to do. He had been in the 9 nether prison for so long that he had forgotten such an important thing. Wait, that's not right. Mu Li felt that something was amiss and asked, why did my lord suddenly recover his strength? AI. It's hard to explain in a few words. The 9 nether dark phoenix sighed heavily as she spoke. Then, she explained the entire situation to the confused Mu Li. After hearing it, Mu Li did not know what to say. Sympathy? There was definitely some, but he was more nervous. His master had been forcefully sent back by the regulations of heaven and earth with resentment. The consequences were simply unimaginable. My lord, don't. At this moment, the exclamations of the others came from the hall. Mu Li and the 9 nether dark phoenix looked at each other and rushed into the hall. Master, what are your orders? Mu Li didn't know what had happened and could only probe. I'm going to the reincarnation pool. Don't stop me. The demon roared with a dark face. Arg! What for? Mu Li was dumbfounded. Did he hear wrong? Reincarnation pool. Don't tell him that the Lord is preparing for reincarnation. This can't do. What else can I do at the reincarnation pool? Of course, I'm going to reincarnate. The demon's words confirmed Mu Li's guess, and it also made him shudder. Woo! Master, can you not be so willful? Master, you can't go anywhere. After calming down, Mu Li advised. Why can't I? Don't even think about stopping me. The demon narrowed his eyes and said coldly. My lord, I'm not stopping you. I have my reasons. Mu Li said as she wiped the cold sweat off her forehead. Reason? The demon glanced at Mu Li, who nodded like a chicken pecking at rice. My lord, I understand what you mean. I know that you want to go to the divine realm, but reincarnation is really not the best way. If you really reincarnate, you'll be a little baby. When you grow up and cultivate, who knows how long it'll take? At the very least, it'll be 30 years, right? 30 years isn't a long time, but it's not short either. What if someone has designs on the Netherworld Empress while you're not here? What if the Netherworld Empress needs your help, but your strength hasn't recovered? At that time, wouldn't she? Mu Li deliberately cut in half, leaving a suspense for his lord to imagine. In reality, he didn't know what to say next, so he had to do this. Sure enough, the demon listened to Mu Li's words and began to think deeply. If he could, why would he be willing to reincarnate? However, if he didn't do this, he didn't know how he could avoid the laws of the heaven and earth and head to the divine realm. That old thing was now keeping a close eye on him, and he could feel the existence of the laws of the heaven and earth at any time. This fact really made him extremely depressed. Thanks, do you have a way? After thinking for a long time, the demon couldn't think of a good way, so he had to ask Mu Li. When Mu Li heard this, his heart trembled. How could he have a good idea? He just wanted to drag out the time so that his lord would give up on the plan of reincarnation. But now that he saw his lord staring at him with anticipation, he couldn't bear to disappoint his lord, so he had to force himself to continue. My lord, although you can't go to the divine world for the time being, if you have anything to say to the Netherworld Empress, we can help you pass it on. Or, we can think of a way to get the Netherworld Empress to come to the Nether prison again and see if she can find a way to smuggle you into the divine world. Stowaway. When the demon heard this word, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Obviously, he was quite interested in this word. However, as soon as he thought of the law of heaven and earth hanging over his head like a sword, he whispered, with the laws of heaven and earth watching, do you have any way to bring Shuer here? Even if there's no way, we have to think of a way. We can't let our lord and the Netherworld Empress be in two separate places. Mu Li was very sympathetic to his master's encounter. AI. When I recovered my strength, I already knew that this would be the result. The demon said helplessly, yes. He knew that this would happen, but he still chose to recover his strength and become the master of the dark world. He knew very well that if he had held back at that time, Shuer would have become the fog's prisoner. It could be said that he would rather be separated by the heaven and earth law cudgel than to see Shuer in danger. Moreover, he was very clear that with the obstruction of the laws of heaven and earth, he had no chance of killing Wu Yan, but it was not a problem to seriously injure her. This way, he could buy some time for Shuer to improve her strength. Even if he was no longer by Shuer's side to protect her, Shuer would not be threatened by Wu Yan. The facts had proven that his decision was correct. However, when everything was going according to his plan, his heart felt empty, as if his heart had been dug out by someone. It was very painful. They had only been apart for a while, and he was already missing Shuer. Sob. Shuer, I miss you so much. The demon was in a dilemma. He felt that he had made the right choice, but he also regretted exposing himself too early. However, he knew that if he could do it all over again, he would still make the same decision. Shuer's safety was more important than anything. Wu Chen, it's all because of you. The demon's hatred for Wu Xiao increased. Then, he suddenly raised his head and roared towards the sky, the laws of the world, you bastard. I won't let you off. After cursing for a long time, Mu Li and the others broke out in cold sweat. The sky above the city lord's mansion was covered with dark clouds, with lightning and thunder rumbling. The dark sky looked as if a storm would fall at any time. The angry rumbles continued, and the purple-black lightning that was as thick as an adult's waist flashed in the sky, making people shiver. Seeing this scene, Mu Li felt uneasy. Was this the rhythm of a fight? Although the weather in the Nether prison had always been bad, the current situation was obviously a sign that the laws of heaven and earth were angry. Mu Li was extremely worried, but he didn't dare to stop his master, who wanted to vent his anger. However, the rumbling thunder also made him worried. A moment later, Mu Li and the others saw the purple-black lightning in the sky strike down from the sky. Its target was the hall they were in. After breaking out in a cold sweat, Mu Li quickly pulled his lord and quickly escaped from the danger zone. The others saw that the situation was not good and immediately teleported away from the hall. As soon as they left, the grand and majestic hall immediately turned to ashes. Then, they heard a warning from the laws of heaven and earth. This is just a little punishment for you. If you dare to scold me again, I won't just build your main hall next time. I'm afraid of you. Do you have the ability to fight me one-on-one? The demon provoked. When Mu Li heard this, he really wanted to kneel down. My lord. Don't fight with the laws of heaven and earth. That guy only had one law, but he could still control them. In front of the laws of heaven and earth, they were the weak group. Unfortunately, the demon didn't know Mu Li's inner thoughts. Even if he knew, he wouldn't care. This was because he could be considered to have clashed with the laws of the heaven and earth. In the face of such a provocation, the regulations of the heaven and earth could only helplessly say, I don't have a physical body, so how can I fight him one-on-one? Then you better mind your own business. Otherwise, don't blame me for breaking up with you. The demon threatened. Hearing this, the regulations of the heaven and earth sighed softly. Then, as if treating the demon as a willful child of their own, they consoled him, I have my own responsibilities. How can I ignore them? If we really stand by and do nothing, the order of the entire heaven and earth will be in chaos. Mistress Dark, don't be too willful. You can't interfere with the matters of the divine world. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable. I don't care. The demon roared. He only wanted Shuai-Er, he only wanted to stay by Shuai-Er's side to protect her. Do you have the heart to see the world collapse? All living beings are in misery. The precept of heaven and earth sighed deeply. It was helpless against the Dark Lord's willfulness, but even so, it still had to control what it should. Chapter 2573:2 Tigers, 1, Why can't I bear it? Not being able to see Shuai-Er is already like the collapse of the world to me. The demon roared after hearing the words of the regulations of heaven and earth. As for the loss of lives, he didn't care at all. What did that have to do with him? If he didn't let him see Shuai-Er, there was a possibility that he would personally cause great suffering in his anger. The demon's words rendered the laws of heaven and earth speechless for a long time. There was no sound of the laws of heaven and earth in the sky for a long time. Just when Mu Li and the others couldn't help but think that the laws of heaven and earth had been driven away by anger, the demon spoke again, I know that you don't care about any of this as compared to Ling Ruoxue. However, don't forget that even if you kill Wu Ling, Ling Ruoxue will not be able to inherit the position of the Divine Master with her current strength. The laws of heaven and earth will not acknowledge her existence. Furthermore, you will receive an even more severe punishment for killing the Divine Master. If the heaven and earth were to collapse and return to chaos because of your willfulness, you won't die. But what about Ling Ruoxue? The regulations of heaven and earth deliberately left a question for the demon so that he could figure it out himself. However, the demon clearly did not follow the script of the regulations of heaven and earth. Instead, he smiled and said with a look of realization, we both have chaotic divine bodies, and Shuai-Er has been acknowledged by the origin of chaos. Thinking about it, there's nothing bad about returning to chaos. Why, you're really unreasonable. The laws of heaven and earth were almost driven mad by this detestable demon. A certain cloud in the sky trembled violently due to excitement, scaring Mu Li and the others so much that they didn't dare to make a sound. However, their admiration for the demon was like a surging river, endless. It's not like you only found out today. The demon said without a care. Yup. I should have known. The fire of the laws of heaven and earth roared and deliberately paused before saying, I'll tell you the truth. If the world falls into chaos, there's no way you two can be together. With Ling Ruoxue's abilities, if the world really collapses, she won't be able to withstand it and become a part of chaos. As the mistress of the dark world, you were born from chaos. You won't die so easily. It's a pity that it takes time for chaos to give birth to a spirit. You'll have plenty to wait for. The laws of the world seemed to be gloating at his misfortune. The demon gritted his teeth when he heard this. In fact, he was just saying it to scare the laws of the heaven and earth. How could he let the heaven and earth really collapse? If the heaven and earth were really destroyed, Shuai-Er would be the first one to not let him off. Unfortunately, the laws of the heaven and earth did not fall for it. This made him a little worried. I'd rather wait. The demon said with an unyielding expression. Then do you want to wait for an endless amount of time, or do you only want to wait for 100 years or so? The heaven-earth law asked again. This time, its tone was much calmer. What do you mean by that? The demon squinted his dark eyes and asked about the rules of heaven and earth. What I mean is, if you're more honest and patient, Ling Ruoxue should be able to reunite with you very soon. If you're bent on causing the world to collapse, then you'll have to wait for countless years. More importantly, if Len Ruoxu's friends and family can't survive because of you, do you think that little girl will forgive you? The laws of heaven and earth saw through the demon's weakness and coaxed him. You're telling me to wait for 100 years for her to become a true divine master? The demon probed. To cultivators, 100 years was just the blink of an eye. It was really nothing. However, to him, who did not see Shuai for one day was like 3 autumns. Even one day was too long. With her aptitude, she might not even need 100 years, what do you think? The preceptor of the world's tone carried a deep chuckle as he continued to coax. Thanks, that's for sure. Even if the demon hated the rules of heaven and earth, he still agreed with this point. His Shuai was the smartest. It would definitely not take her 100 years to defeat Wu Chen. However, 100 years was a little too long for him. Since that's the case, you should wait patiently for 100 years. I promise that once she can truly inherit the divine realm, I will definitely not obstruct the matters between the two of you. How about it? The regulations of heaven and earth began to negotiate with the demon. You still want to stop us from being together? When the demon heard this, he squinted his eyes dangerously and questioned her unhappily. Hee. You've misunderstood me. What I mean is that I won't stop you from going to the divinity. The heaven-earth law explained. Then why can't I go now? Why must I wait for 100 years? The demon was dissatisfied with this again. You also know that only that irresponsible Tsang is in the god world now. Whether it's Len Ruoxue or Wu Ice, they're not your match. There's no god master who's on par with you. You'll only cause damage to the god world if you go there. Previously, when you revealed your Dark Lord's pressure, it had already cast a shadow on many of the living beings in the divine world. Those with lower strength were even directly turned into ashes. That's why I had no choice but to stop you. The laws of the heaven and earth said with a slight headache. Stop me now. When Shuai becomes a divine master, will I not be able to cause any harm to the divine realm? Your words are clearly contradictory. How can I believe you? The demon looked at the sky suspiciously and asked. AI. You're not easy to fool. I'll tell you the truth. According to the rules of the heaven and earth, you're not allowed to go to the divine realm. Aside from your pressure, your innate attributes are a kind of harm to the divine realm, especially after you've recovered your true power as the Dark Lord. Even if you've hidden your power, this kind of harm is still inevitable. However, as long as you can calm down and wait for 100 years, I'll turn a blind eye when the time comes, understand? The laws of the heaven and earth had been forced by the demon to admit that they had gone easy on him. However, the demon was not satisfied with such an explanation. However, the rules of heaven and earth did not give him a chance to speak. He only said, "It's settled. You better be honest. Otherwise, don't blame me for breaking up the couple." With that, the law of heaven and earth gently disappeared, and the sky returned to its usual calm. Seeing the heaven-earth law leave just like that, the evildoer was furious again. He was so angry that he wanted to continue scolding. Mu Li saw that the situation was not good and hurriedly grabbed the evildoer's arm to stop him. "My lord, calm down. 100 years will pass very quickly, so you must not make the laws of heaven and earth unhappy." "Humph. Do you think I'm afraid of it?" The demon snorted coldly and put on a cold and noble expression. "Your Highness, of course you don't need to be afraid of it, but you have to think about the Nether Empress. If the world were to be destroyed, would the Netherworld Empress be happy?" Helpless, Mu Li could only use Len Ruoxue as a shield. Sure enough, when the demon heard Mu Li's words, he was so depressed that he didn't make a sound. He was afraid that Shuai would be unhappy. However, was he really going to wait for 100 years? Bearing the pain of lovesickness every day, the demon was not confident that he could endure it. "Your Majesty, just bear with it. 100 years will really pass by very quickly, and we'll also think of ways to frequently go to the divine realm to be your messengers. Moreover, the Nether Empress' aptitude is outstanding, so she'll definitely be able to defeat Fog Phoenix and become the true lord of the divine realm in less than 100 years. Thus, for the sake of your and the Nether Empress' future happiness, I feel that waiting is worth it. Mu Li carefully suggested. His voice was so nervous that it was trembling. He was afraid that if he said something wrong, it would backfire. Chapter 2574:2 Tigers, 2, AI. That's the only way. This demon was filled with hatred. He had actually allowed the damned regulations of the heaven and earth to succeed. He was truly unwilling. Unfortunately, he didn't have any good ideas. Sob. The demon was depressed and heartbroken. The current situation was really too bad. He walked to a huge tree in the courtyard of the palace and sat down listlessly. From time to time, he would look up at the sky. He looked like he had been heartbroken. Mu Li and the others felt sad when they saw him. However, they really couldn't help. Mu Li and the others could not bear to see their master suffer such a blow. They consciously arranged for people to rebuild the main hall for their master so that they would be out of sight and out of mind. The demon, on the other hand, sat under the tree without a word. On the other side, Leng Ruoxue, who was in the god world, was also sitting in a corner with a dejected expression, ignoring all humans and beasts. Uncle Long and the others sighed when they saw this. AI. They had lived for so many years, but they had never felt that the rules of heaven and earth were so abominable. They had actually done something like breaking up a pair of lovebirds. It was really too evil. When Song and the other beasties who had already escaped saw Leng Ruoxue in this state, they felt extremely uncomfortable, especially Tsang. If it wasn't for the fact that he was trapped by the fog, that damn evildoer wouldn't have to reveal his identity. Although the two of them often bickered and fought, and hated each other, Sangjin felt that if that hateful fellow's departure would make Nyo so sad, then he might as well let that damned demon stay and continue to be an eyesore. It was better than Nyo's current lifeless appearance. Girl. Just pay attention to me. Sang's heart was roaring. It laid in front of Leng Ruoxue and raised its little head. It looked at Leng Ruoxue pitifully with tears in its eyes, trying to arouse Leng Ruoxue's sympathy. However, Leng Ruoxue didn't even give it a glance. Woo, Nyo doesn't love it anymore. It also felt that it would never love again. Sang worriedly turned around and left with its big furry tail between its legs. Sang kept his head down and walked for who knows how long. Uncle Long, who was following behind him, finally couldn't bear it anymore and picked him up, asking, "Senior Azure, where do you want to go? Why are you following me?" "I'm going to take revenge for Nyo," Azure said viciously. "Senior Tsang, have you forgotten the warning from the laws of the world? Wu Wan is now seriously injured and can't pose a threat to Shui for the time being. So, can you take a rest? Do you want to be locked up by the laws of heaven and earth?" Uncle Long reminded him helplessly. He really felt that with these restless guys around, he had been so worried that his hair had turned white. "Are we just going to let that bitch off like this?" Azure roared. "What else can I do? You can't do anything to her, so only Shui can do it herself. This is also a test for her by the laws of heaven and earth," Uncle Long reminded. "I won't do anything to her, but I can always find trouble with others." Azure smiled evilly. "Ah. This should work." Uncle Long couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat on his forehead and mourn for the person it was staring at. "If that's the case, then I'll go to Imperial City first and smash it to vent my anger for Nyo." "Kill!" Azure roared. After saying this, Azure broke free from Uncle Long's embrace and prepared to set off for the Imperial City. Seeing this, Uncle Long hugged Tsang tightly and reminded, "Senior Tsang, we can't destroy the Imperial City, and we can't even destroy the God Lord's estate." "Thanks, why? You'd better give me a reasonable explanation. Otherwise, do you understand?" Tsang glared at Uncle Long with dissatisfaction, as if he was looking at a traitor. "Senior Tsang, think about it. The divine realm will belong to Shui sooner or later. If you really smash the imperial city into pieces, how much money will it cost to repair it? And the God Lord's manor, you've already smashed it several times. If you continue to smash it, how will Schwer live? Uncle Long said worriedly. What's there to be afraid of? Wu Yan, that bitch, will repair the imperial city and the God Lord's mansion before Niu moves in. Besides, if there's anything to spend, it's Wu Yan's money. Niu doesn't have to pay a single cent. Azure said disapprovingly. Is Wu Yan's money not Schwer's money? You should know that in the future, the entire divine realm will belong to that little girl Schwer. Uncle Long laughed evilly. After Uncle Long finished speaking, Tsang stared at him for a long time, until Uncle Long almost went crazy. Tsang then smiled and said, "It sounds reasonable. If that's the case, then I won't waste Niu's money." That's more like it. Uncle Long nodded in agreement. But if I don't vent this anger in my heart, it'll be unbearable. What do you think I should do? Tsang Yu resentfully asked Uncle Long for his opinion. In that case, why don't we go to the Phoenix race, Dragon race, and White Tiger race to play? Uncle Long said after thinking for a while. No. They will also belong to Niu in the future, so I can't play with them to death. Azure shook his head, his cute face full of growing troubles. Then what does Senior Tsang want? Uncle Long had no idea what to do. The two of them looked at each other. What about the Dragon Emperor and the Phoenix King? If I can't play with their entire clan, I'll play with the two of them. Azure said helplessly. Senior Tsang, those two fellows have already escaped during the chaos. Long Shu regretfully told Tsang this news. At that time, all their attention was on Schwer. When they thought of the Dragon Emperor and the Phoenix King, the two heavily injured guys had actually run away. They could only blame themselves for being too careless. Who would have thought that the two beasts would still have the strength to escape after being so heavily injured? He ran away. No, we have to catch them. Tsang felt great hatred. He couldn't kill Wu Shao, destroy the Imperial City and the Divine Master's estate, and he couldn't destroy the Dragon, Phoenix, and White Tiger clans. He could only start with the kings of these three clans. He couldn't return empty-handed anyway. Where? I don't think they will return to the Dragon clan and the Phoenix clan. Uncle Long said with certainty. It's fine, I'll go catch the White Tiger King first. Tsang laughed, a ruthless glint flashed across his eyes and his tone was cold. Uncle Long couldn't help but shiver after hearing this. White Tiger King, you're on your own. Senior Azure, can I join you? He couldn't help asking. Let's go. Tsang was well aware that this old whale wanted to monitor him in case he did something he shouldn't do. He felt that he had a clear conscience and wasn't afraid of being found out. With Tsang leading the way, the man and beast quickly arrived at Longevity Mountain. This time, they sneaked up the mountain and did not attract the attention of the White Tiger race's scouts. And when they arrived at the White Tiger race's territory, the White Tiger King was currently raising its head in anticipation, waiting for the elders of the race to bring back news of their triumphant return. Unfortunately, they didn't hear the news of victory. Instead, they welcomed two killing gods. Naturally, Tsang and Uncle Long didn't really make a move against the White Tiger race. But the aura from the two of them was already sufficient to cause one's heart to tremble. Especially the White Tiger King. After seeing the legendary Totoro, it was so scared that it started to tremble. It looked at Tsang and said with a trembling voice, "You. What do you want? Don't mess around." Chapter 2575:2 Tigers, 3, What can you do if I want to mess around? Azure asked curiously. I will call for help. The White Tiger King's head was hot as it started to spout nonsense. Uncle Long didn't know whether to laugh or cry when he heard the other party threaten him to call for help. Wasn't this too funny? The great White Tiger King didn't want to fight bravely when facing an enemy. Instead, he wanted to call for help. All right. He admitted that when they entered the White Tiger King's chamber, they were not discovered by any of the White Tiger clan members. The White Tiger King was the only one in the White Tiger King's palace. However, White Tiger King, did you call for people to come here so that your own clan members could admire you for being a coward? I suggest you be more honest and don't call for help. Otherwise, your people will be disappointed that they have such a useless king. Sighing, Uncle Long advised. I think it's not a bad idea to let people see its cowardly appearance. Song had a different opinion and laughed evilly. With that, it jumped onto the White Tiger King's head and used its sharp claws to poke at the White Tiger King's head. The White Tiger King was so scared that it didn't dare to say anything. The White Tiger King's tolerance didn't make Sangyu stop. Instead, it made Sangyu even happier. He slowly moved down from the White Tiger King's head and finally grabbed the White Tiger King's thick tail, pulling it hard. Oh woo! The White Tiger King howled in pain, and each cry was more painful than the last. It was only when his heart-wrenching roar reached Uncle Long's ears that he suddenly realized that the White Tiger King's tail had been torn off by Azure. Ugh! It was really cruel and bloody. Uncle Long felt a deep sense of sympathy for the White Tiger King, who was bleeding profusely. In addition, he also sincerely believed that having a tail was not necessarily a good thing these days. See, wasn't this the enemy's weakness? King, what's wrong? The White Tiger King's pained cries had successfully attracted the White Tiger clan's attention. As soon as the White Tigers rushed into the White Tiger King's palace, they saw that their king had fainted from the pain. A Totoro with snow-white fur was sitting on the king's head, free and at ease. The Totoro's claws were holding onto a thick white tail, which was stained with blood. This tail. All the White Tigers looked at their king's tail and were shocked to find that it was gone. Where the tail used to be, it was flowing with warm fresh blood. Oh my God! This was the doing of that Totoro? The evidence was in the claws of the Totoro, and they really couldn't exonerate the terrifying Totoro of legend. However, they did not know how to deal with the current situation. How did you guys get in? The White Tiger race's Grand Elder was the calmer one and knew to ask about Uncle Long and Azure's background. However, this Grand Elder was clear that it would be a waste of time even if he asked. How else could he enter? Of course, he had treated this place as his own back garden. However, they were angry that they didn't feel anything. I walked in, as expected, Uncle Long replied as the White Tiger First Elder wished. The White Tiger Great Elder was very depressed, and not just ordinarily depressed. He didn't know how to continue these words. Although the other party's intention was not too obvious, but the moment they came, they tore off the king's tail. They must have come with ill intentions. Why didn't you let anyone report it? Although the Great Elder of White Tiger didn't say anything, there were still people who were willing to show off, so another elder quickly questioned him. Is there a need? Uncle Long replied coldly. Of course there's a need. This is the White Tiger race, not everyone has the qualifications to enter. A certain elder who was obviously confused shouted loudly. He was so angry that he almost jumped up and grabbed Uncle Hua Long's face. We didn't want to come in, so we didn't announce it. Uncle Long said indifferently. If you didn't want to come in, then what are you doing now? The elder said, unwilling to let it go. The White Tiger First Elder was so frightened that he kept winking at it, but unfortunately, it was too excited and obviously didn't see it. He's looking for trouble with the White Tiger King. Didn't you guys see it? Uncle Long said impatiently. Thanks, how audacious. What do you think this place is? A certain elder stomped his feet in anger. Isn't this the White Tiger race? We know. Uncle Long sneered. You know, yet you still dare to come and cause trouble. You're really tired of living. A certain elder roared. So noisy. Azure became even more impatient and immediately shot a sharp glare at the elder. The elder was so scared that he kept quiet. Following that, the White Tigers saw a white light flash by, followed by a painful howl. The elder who had been showing off just a moment ago had one of his ears cut off, turning him into a one-eared white tiger. The steaming hot fresh blood that came out of the furnace instantly dyed the snow-white fur of a certain white tiger race elder red. When the other white tigers saw this, they all covered their ears with their claws and clamped their tails between their legs. This was really too fierce, too cruel, didn't you see? Azure's next attack caused all the white tigers present to hold their breaths. They were all afraid that they would become the next white tiger king and a certain elder. Seeing that they had finally shut their mouths and that no other white tigers would dare to cause trouble, Azure happily turned his head and instructed Uncle Dragon, Little Whale, bring these two tigers back and let Nyo be happy. All right, he said. The words Little Whale confused Uncle Long, but he was smart enough to ignore them. After knowing Azure for so long, he had already fully concluded the way to get along with Azure, which was not to go against Senior Azure's words. He could do whatever he wanted, otherwise, he would definitely be the one in trouble. With one hand, he carried the White Tiger King on his shoulder, and with the other, he grabbed a certain elder of the White Tiger race who was still unconscious. Uncle Dragon walked out of the hall as if there was no one else around, with Tsung in charge of bringing up the rear. With every step Uncle Long took, the white tigers in front of him couldn't help but take a step back and make way for him. The panic and fear on the white tigers' faces made Uncle Long's mood very good. However, the white tigers were not in a good mood. They were in a very bad mood. They could only watch helplessly as the two white tigers took away their king and an elder, yet none of them dared to make a sound to stop them. Even the white tiger race's grand elder had maintained his silence, let alone the other white tigers. After watching Uncle Long and Tsung's backs and confirming that the two frightening killing gods had really left the Longevity Mountain, the white tigers finally heaved a sigh of relief, and their breathing became much smoother. However, when they thought about how their king was in their hands, their hearts were once again stifled. First Elder, what do we do now? An elder of the white tiger race couldn't help but to ask. At this moment, the elders of the white tiger race had already gathered in the meeting hall, preparing to discuss this matter. The elders' expressions were all not very good, and they all had worried expressions. The similarly depressed white tiger first elder kept sighing and said, "How would I know?" Although it really wanted to say, "Just wait for death." However, after thinking about it, it decided not to provoke these guys with fragile hearts anymore. However, it was likely that the white tiger race would not be able to escape this calamity. Although the great elder of the white tiger clan wasn't very clear why the other party didn't take them away with him, he guessed that the other party probably didn't care about them at all. He felt that they were already in his bag, so naturally, he could deal with them whenever he wanted. AI. White tiger first elder Yu Sang's brows were furrowed together. In fact, he really hoped that the other party would capture them as well so that they could die and reincarnate earlier. However, now that things had turned out this way, they were afraid that they could not even sleep well. Who could sleep when there was a knife hanging over their head? First Elder, that Totoro is with Leng Ruoxue, right? I wonder how that thing is going. At this time, another elder asked in a low voice. That Totoro is here to cause trouble for us. What do you think we can do about it? The white tiger first elder asked in return. The truth was obvious. He had definitely failed. In fact, it didn't agree with the king's idea at the beginning, but the king was determined to do it his own way. It couldn't stop the king, so it could only let the king do as he pleased. Now, it was great, something really happened, right? Arg. Then what should I do? Wouldn't Leng Ruoxue take revenge on us? When the elder heard this, he immediately became afraid. Some of the elders, who had already seen the situation, were speechless and didn't know what to say when they heard this. In short, they were washed clean and waiting to be slaughtered. Leng Ruoxue, that vengeful woman, would definitely not let them off. Great Elder, since things have come to this, should we split up and hide? Seeing that the seated elders were all scared out of their wits, one of the elders couldn't help but suggest. We can't avoid it. This is a great calamity for our white tiger race. The white tiger first elder sighed repeatedly. Upon hearing this, the white tiger elders present all fell silent. Just as the white tiger race's elders were filled with worry, Tsang and Uncle Long had already brought the two unlucky old tigers back to the land of evil demons. The moment they reached home, Tsang jumped into Leng Ruox's arms excitedly and said coquettishly, "Girl, I've brought you a gift. Take a look." Present. Leng Ruoxue, who had been scared out of her wits, raised her head under Tsang's constant harassment and looked at him in confusion. With two loud bangs, two large white tigers were thrown in front of Leng Ruoxue. Chapter 2576, Demon City, 1. The veins on Leng Ruox's forehead throbbed as she looked at the two crippled tigers. The appearance of the two tigers reminded her of a song. It was too vivid. Leng Ruoxue knew that Tsang was doing this to avenge her. However, seeing the state the White Tiger King was in, she couldn't bring herself to be happy. Therefore, she only took one look before she went back to being worried again. Seeing Nio's lack of interest, Tsang wilted for a moment, and then fiercely glared at the two unconscious tigers. He roared in his heart, "These two useless things, they actually can't make Nio happy, what use are they?" In a fit of anger, Tsang wanted to kill him, but Uncle Long saw through his thoughts and stopped him. "Senior Tsang, don't use your claws to kill a tiger. What do you want to do? You traitor!" "Uncle Long!" Tsang roared. He looked at Uncle Long as if he had really done something wrong. Uncle Long felt quite wronged and looked at Tsang with a bitter expression. He was wailing in his heart. Woo! How did he become a traitor? This was not a light crime. However, knowing that Tsang was angry, he didn't dare to talk back to Tsang. He just explained in a low voice, "Senior Tsang, they still have some use, so let's keep them for now." "What use is it? You want to keep them as your beast pets?" Azure blinked her dark eyes and asked. Ugh! He was also a beastie. When Uncle Long heard this, he unconsciously wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, feeling ashamed of Tsang's thoughts. Who knew that Tsang would become serious and keep asking, "Little whale, do you want to take them as your beast pets? If that's the case, I'll spare them for your sake, but I can't spare their lives." Looking at Tsang's serious expression, Uncle Long didn't know if he should thank Tsang for giving him so much face. However, when Tsang called him Little Whale and asked if he wanted to take in a beast pet, Uncle Long felt awkward. "Little Whale, give me a reaction." Tsang couldn't wait to ask when Uncle Long remained silent. "Senior Azure, I'm also a beastie." Uncle Long had no choice but to remind him. "What does that matter?" Azure said disapprovingly, as if he was saying that the weather was good today. After hearing this, Uncle Long broke out in a cold sweat. Senior Azure was really too powerful. At least, he had lived for so many years, but he had only heard of powerful beasts taking in subordinates. He had never heard of them taking in beast pets. The word beast pet was something that only humans needed. However, if Senior Azure really wanted him to take in these two white tigers, he could consider taking them in as his little brothers. He just didn't know if Senior Tsang would be satisfied with this. However, Tsang was obviously not satisfied. Tsang, who knew Uncle Long's thoughts, made it clear at the first moment that he would take them as beast pets and not subordinates. Azure deeply felt that letting them be subordinates was too easy on them. It would be best if they were beast pets. Then, they could sign a master-servant contract or something, and they would be able to do whatever they wanted. "I will beat you to death." He told Uncle Long about his thoughts, and Uncle Long was a little confused. He knew that Senior Tsang wasn't easy to deal with. He actually had to sign a master-servant contract. He wondered if a master-servant contract would be established between beasts. One had to know that up until now, there had not been any master-servant contract between beasts. "Thanks, don't worry and sign it. The rules of the contract do not dare to disagree." Tsang knew what Uncle Long was worried about and quickly comforted him with a smile. "Senior Azure, actually, I feel that letting me sign a master-servant contract with them is already letting them off too easily. I should find a weaker beast to sign a master-servant contract with them." Only then will I be able to achieve my goal of humiliating them to a greater extent. Uncle Long suggested with a smirk. This idea seems pretty good. Little whale, you're not bad. You're a promising child. After hearing Uncle Long's words, Azure blinked his eyes with an innocent expression. It's good that Senior Tsang likes it. Uncle Long wiped the cold sweat off his face. He thought to himself, I've finally gotten rid of these two hot potatoes. Although they're not bad, they're definitely a synonym for trouble. Who should I choose? Azure's bright eyes swept across the crowd, not knowing who to choose. There were no humans or beasts here who were too weak. The weakest was a divine emperor, so Azure was very conflicted. He felt that whoever he chose would benefit the two tigers. Master! Suddenly, a cry of joy sounded in everyone's ears. They turned around at the same time and saw Old Leopard leading a group of beasts standing not far away. Those beasts all had tears in their eyes and were staring at them excitedly. The one who spoke was the vain and narcissistic White Fox clan leader. Master! I've missed you so much, your little fox almost didn't get to see you. The White Fox clan leader called out softly to test the waters. Then, she immediately sprinted towards Leng Ruoxue in excitement. She opened her arms and pulled the petite Leng Ruoxue into her embrace. Her huge, furry fox face was still rubbing against Leng Ruoxue's beautiful face. Instantly, Tsang's face darkened. Uncle Long and the others' hearts trembled. This was definitely the rhythm of seeking death. If the White Fox tribe leader was still alive, he would definitely be angered by the heavens if he dared to get close to Shui or in front of Tsang, who loved to fight for favor. However, it turned out that the White Fox clan leader was lucky. At least Tsang did not fly into a rage immediately. Leng Ruoxue, on the other hand, regained her senses after being hugged by a huge creature. At this moment, she also saw the Old Leopard and the other beastie not far away. Senior Leopard, you guys, Leng Ruoxue's eyes started to tear up when she saw them. She was so excited that she didn't know what to say when she saw the Old Leopard and the other beastie standing right in front of her. He had thought that the sneak attack of the Fog Ice, together with the Dragon, Phoenix, and White Tiger clans would kill these beasts. He did not expect them to be alive. Such a fact made Leng Ruoxue extremely happy. The pain of the demon leaving her had also lessened by a lot. In fact, the reason why she was so heartbroken and absent-minded, apart from the factor of evilness, had a certain relationship with the death of the Old Leopard and other beasts. But now seeing that they were all fine, she felt a lot more comfortable in her heart. We're fine. Tears flickered in Old Leopard's eyes, and his voice was choked with sobs. Are you the only ones left? Leng Ruoxue's good mood turned gloomy again when she saw that the number of beasties standing beside the Old Leopard had decreased. Hee hee. We're the vanguard, we're just here to check out the situation. The Old Leopard laughed. It's safe now. You can let the beasts come back. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently. Good. I'll inform them now. Old Leopard nodded and looked at Leng Ruoxue. He wanted to say something but stopped himself. Senior Leopard, are you hiding something from me? Leng Ruoxue looked at Old Leopard's expression and asked uneasily. She wanted Qing Ju to read her mind, but he did not respond. She could only voice out her doubts. Chapter 2577 Demon City 2. Some of the beasts are still recovering from their injuries, so I'm afraid they won't be able to return immediately. Old Leopard said with a sigh. Are your injuries very serious? Leng Ruoxue asked hesitantly. Some are more serious, but there are more injured beasts, so there aren't enough pills to use, so I can only give them to the more seriously injured ones. Old Leopard explained. Where's the injured beastie now? Leng Ruoxue asked worriedly. At the Floating Clouds Mountain. The White Fox clan leader quickly said. Let's go to the Floating Clouds Mountain. Leng Ruoxue replied without hesitation. Girl, what should we do with these two guys? Seeing that Niu was about to leave, Blue hurriedly pointed at the unconscious white tiger on the ground and asked. You can handle it. Leng Ruoxue was not in the mood to care about the White Tiger King. Hearing Leng Ruoxue's words, Tsang nodded and said to Uncle Long, "Little whale, I'll leave these 2 tigers to you." After saying that, Tsang jumped into Leng Ruoxue's arms and found a comfortable place to lie down. Wasn't he supposed to go to Floating Clouds Mountain? Of course, he had to bring it along. "Uncle Long, you guys stay here. I'll go to the Floating Clouds Mountain and bring back the beasts." Leng Ruoxue instructed Uncle Long before breaking free from the White Fox clan leader's embrace. She then brought the old leopard and the other beasts towards the Floating Clouds Mountain. Along the way, Leng Ruoxue told him that even though the beasts were injured, none of them were injured thanks to the clan leader of the White Fox clan's adaptability. It was unknown how that old fox had thought of digging a secret passage from the Floating Clouds Mountain to the land of demons, and then secretly smuggled the beasts there. After that, he vigilantly ordered people to block the secret passage, so that the beasts in the land of demons were spared. It was said that it was a testament to the cooperation and close cooperation between the beasts. The beasts displayed their strengths and finally all of them managed to keep their lives. After the fall of the land of demons, the beasts in Floating Clouds Mountain immediately went into seclusion, afraid that Fog would discover any clues. After hiding in fear for nearly half a month, they were finally safe. However, due to their inability to contact Leng Ruoxue, they did not know much about the situation in the land of the demons. It was only after they heard that strange phenomena were occurring in the land of the demons that they gathered their men to gather information. Fortunately, things were developing in a direction that they were happy with. Otherwise, not only would they have made a wasted trip, they might have even become the prisoners of Fog Ice. After Leng Ruoxue heard the old leopard's explanation, she saw clan leader White Fox praise me. Praise me. He looked at her expectantly. A few drops of cold sweat hung helplessly on Leng Ruoxue's forehead. As the clan leader of the White Fox clan had wished, Leng Ruoxue stroked his big, fluffy head before praising him. "White Fox clan leader, well done. It's over." The White Fox clan leader looked at her miserly and beautiful master with disappointment. Why didn't he take any action? The White Fox clan leader was not satisfied, and the resentment on her body increased. "What, you want a material reward?" Leng Ruoxue glanced at the White Fox clan leader's expression and said calmly. "I don't need material rewards, but if master can give me a sweet kiss, I'll be very happy." The White Fox clan leader requested fearlessly. In order to get a kiss from its master, it even ignored the Totoro that was lying proudly in its master's arms and constantly releasing cold air. From this, it could be seen how strong its desire for a kiss from its master was. Thanks. As soon as the White Fox clan leader's voice fell, the old leopard and the other beasts saw a white light flash quickly, and then there was a scream. The White Fox clan leader covered his face in pain and rolled on the ground. "Old bye." The old leopard quickly ran to the White Fox clan leader's side and cried out softly with a worried look. "It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. Wah. My lovely and beautiful master, save me. I'm disfigured." The White Fox clan leader covered her face as she wailed. Through the White Fox clan leader's claws, the old leopard saw fresh red blood gushing out of the furnace. He did not know how to react. If it was not wrong, the white light from before should be Tsang's Totoro. Ugh! Not only did he fail to ask for Shuai'er's kiss, he was even scratched by a Totoro. How tragic was this? It was starting to pity the White Fox clan leader. However, the old leopard, who knew well of the nature of the Blue Guardian, cleverly decided not to get involved in the dispute between them, or he would only get into trouble. In this day and age, the most important thing was to stay safe. Furthermore, seeing that the White Fox clan leader was still able to cry out so loudly, it was probably nothing serious. Therefore, after a simple greeting, it returned to the group and acted as if nothing had happened. As for the other beasts, they did not have the love of a little friend. They did not even greet the White Fox clan leader and chose to ignore this scene. "Master, your Foxy is disfigured." After a long time, the White Fox clan leader was still rolling on the ground, shouting non-stop. Leng Ruoxue was left with no choice but to squat down beside the White Fox clan leader. She pulled down his paw and said, "Let me see." "Woo. Master, be gentle, it hurts." Seeing that her master was finally willing to pay attention to her, the White Fox clan leader was elated. She could not help but wave her long, furry tail gently, clearly showing off. "It's fine, I won't disfigure you." Leng Ruoxue looked at the 5 claw marks on the White Fox clan leader's face and thought to herself, Zhang Chu's claw is really vicious. Those claw marks are so deep that they can even see the bones. However, this White Fox clan leader is really not your average person. Even in this state, he still wants to act coquettishly. She expressed that she was quite speechless about this. With that, Leng Ruoxue threw an elixir into the White Fox clan leader's mouth. After taking the elixir, the pain in the White Fox clan leader's body lessened by quite a bit. However, he was still lying on the ground. After waiting for a while, Leng Ruoxue noticed that the White Fox clan leader had no intention of getting up. She could only urge, "If there's nothing, then get up. So that we can continue our journey." "There's something. I have something to do. It still hurts." The White Fox clan leader said pitifully. This old fox was still acting coquettishly. When Leng Ruoxue heard this, she could not stop sighing. When Song heard this, he could not help but want to use his claws again. Fortunately, as the master, his hands were quick and his eyes were sharp, so he did not continue to cause trouble. "Where does it hurt?" Leng Ruoxue could only play along when she saw that the White Fox clan leader was being cheeky. "My whole body hurts. Master, please help me rub it." The White Fox clan leader said, a little insatiable. Hearing this, Leng Ruoxue was speechless. Old Leopard and the other beasties also felt that this fellow with a bad memory was simply courting death. As soon as Azure heard this, he exploded. "Hells, I only scratched your face, and your whole body actually hurts. Do you want me to help you rub it?" Azure's fur stood on end as he roared. "No, no need. I only want Master to help me." The White Fox clan leader, who did not seem to realize the danger of the situation, said, "She doesn't have time for you, I'll help you. You don't have to be so polite." After Tsang finished speaking, Wadadi jumped out from Leng Ruoxue's arms. Following that, white light flashed by quickly, accompanied by howls of pain. It was truly sad and tearful to hear it. Not only that, after a moment, snow-white fur fluttered in the sky, like snowflakes falling in winter, slowly descending. Chapter 2578, Demon City, 3. After an unknown period of time, the white light finally stopped. Leng Ruoxue, the old leopard, and the other beasts widened their eyes in disbelief as they looked at the White Fox clan leader, who was on her last breath. How tragic! It was really tragic. The current White Fox clan leader no longer looked like a fox. It was a bloody piece of meat. Not only that, the White Fox clan leader's beautiful fur, which it had always been proud of, had also disappeared. Right now, it was a fox that had been plucked of all its fur. Such a punishment was definitely an unbearable blow to a fox who loved to look beautiful. The old leopard and the other beasts looked at the dying White Fox clan leader with sympathy. They had a lot to say, but they did not know where to start. In short, they sympathized with this narcissistic old fox who loved beauty. He just didn't know if this guy could bear such a cruel result. However, the White Fox clan leader's mental endurance had clearly exceeded the expectations of the old leopard and the other beasties. This was because it was still trying its best to open its swollen eyes and look at its beautiful and lovely master with tears in its eyes. The affection that was expressed in its eyes was so touching. The old leopard and the other beasts were touched. This was true love. They would fight whoever dared to say that it wasn't them. However, Leng Ruoxue clearly thought differently from them. Even though she pitied the White Fox clan leader, when she saw her current state, for some reason, she felt that she had brought this upon herself. Could it be that she had no sympathy at all? Len Ruoxue refused to believe that she was a bad woman who enjoyed gloating over others' misfortune. Hence, she squatted down with a worried look on her face and stuffed a pill into clan leader White Fox's mouth. She then sighed and said, "White Fox clan leader, you." Sigh. "Let's continue our journey." She didn't know what to say. When the White Fox clan leader heard Len Ruoxue's words this time, she nodded obediently and shyly. "I'll listen to you, master." After taking the pill, its injuries were almost healed, but its snow-white fur could not grow back immediately. Fortunately, this was not the first time such a situation had happened, so it was very calm. Lowering her head to look at the remaining fur on her body, the White Fox clan leader was rather pleased. Fortunately, the Totoro was very good at plucking hair and knew that the hair on the key parts should be left for it. Otherwise, it would have been gone. "Master, let's go." The White Fox clan leader consoled herself and was the first to walk in front. In the face of such a situation, the old leopard and the other beasts cleverly attributed it to excessive stimulation. Following behind the White Fox clan leader, who had been too agitated, Len Ruoxue finally arrived at the Floating Clouds Mountain with her beasts. Upon arriving at the Floating Cloud Mountain, other than a few beasties who were surprised by the White Fox clan leader's new appearance, many beasties seemed to have gotten used to it and only shot a glance at it. In this regard, the old leopard and the other beasts seemed to be a little uneasy. The old leopard couldn't believe that some beasts were so calm. He even grabbed one of the beasts and asked, "Don't you have any thoughts about the White Fox clan leader's new image?" Tisk. It's not the first time that old fox has done this. What else can he think about? The beastie who spoke was from the Floating Cloud Mountain. After saying that, it showed a strong contempt for the old leopard who was making a fuss. The old leopard was completely confused. Woo, okay. It was the one who was not calm. With a deep sense of conflict, the old leopard went to help Len Ruoxue in low spirits. He brought Len Ruoxue around to inspect the injured beasts, then gave them pills. After treating the beasts' injuries, Len Ruoxue noticed a few familiar snow-white figures in the crowd. Shui Yuan, Shui Qiao. Len Ruoxue was pleasantly surprised when she saw the two gigantic snow foxes. "After we moved, we wanted to go to the land of demons to find you, but something happened there. We contacted the Snow Fox Great Elder, so we came here directly." Shui Ren explained with a smile. "Little Shui, it's all thanks to these two Snow Fox seniors keeping watch over us during this period of time." The old leopard nodded gratefully at the two white foxes and said to Len Ruoxue, Thank you, two seniors." Len Ruoxue understood. If it wasn't for the support of a few powerful beastie during this period of time, some of the weaker beastie would have had a mental breakdown long ago. "You're welcome. We're a family," Shui Ran said hurriedly. Their king was a beastie, so they naturally couldn't just stand by and watch. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to explain it to their king. "By the way, little girl, how is the king? Are you hurt?" Snowbridge asked anxiously. "May is fine. When the beasts here are all better, we'll return to the land of demons." Len Ruoxue knew that these two foxes wanted to see the May and the rest as soon as possible, so she naturally explained in an understanding manner. Yes. Shui Ran and Shui Qiao quickly nodded. In fact, they wanted to ask why they didn't bring their king with them, but they were too embarrassed to ask. In fact, ever since the universal bracelet could be confined by people, the demon and other beasts were not very willing to stay in the bracelet. They did not want the same thing to happen again. It did not feel good to be unable to help their master, and they did not want to experience that feeling again. And this time, because Len Ruoxue was only here to pick up the injured beasts from Floating Cloud Mountain, the May and the other beasts did not follow. They had to help their master guard the land of demons and not let anyone else take advantage of them. They had a lot of things to do now, and this was definitely not the time to stick to their master. With this thought in mind, the sensible May and the other beasts all stayed in the land of demons to wait for their master. More importantly, they wanted to give their master a surprise. After staying at the floating cloud mountain for 2 days, Len Ruoxia's beast's injuries had mostly recovered under the treatment of her powerful pills. After moving the beasts into her bracelet, she set off with Shui Ran and Shui Qiao, the 2 snow foxes, to return to the land of demons. As there were only 3 of them, their return speed was much faster than when they came. When they arrived at the land of evil demons, Len Ruoxia suddenly realized that in just a few days, the land of evil demons had a new look. No, it should be said that it was even better than before. At this moment, the land of evil demons was filled with trees, and huge trees formed a forest. Numerous small paths made of trees were winding. Every path seemed to be winding, but in reality, they all led to Len Ruoxia's original residence. However, people who came here for the first time would most likely get lost. In addition, the original land of the demons was mainly made up of mountains, but after the sneak attack by Wu Xiao and the others, the mountains were basically flattened. Now, not even a small hill could be seen. After passing through layers of trees and entering the depths, they saw many exquisite small buildings. The small buildings were at least 2 stories, and all of them were made of wood. They looked beautiful and magnificent. It could be said that they were 2 extremes compared to the land of the demons, which was surrounded by mountains and had a dangerous aura. The current land of demons could be called Demon City. When Len Ruoxia, a human and 2 magical beasts, stepped into this place, she was also at a loss for a moment. However, she recovered very quickly and followed her memory and intuition to find the original encampment. The base was still in its original position, but after some tidying up, it had become the center of the entire demon land. Not only had the houses been restored to their original state, but many flowers and trees had also been planted in the surroundings. Only a wide road was left to lead to other places in the demon land. In addition, the area of the encampment was much larger than before. In addition to the surrounding flowers and plants, there were all kinds of small buildings within a radius of 100 miles, which had become a major feature of the encampment. When Len Ruoxia saw these items, Uncle Long and the rest were nowhere to be seen. After she had finished looking around, Uncle Long and the rest came out from their hiding spots. Looking at the shocked Len Ruoxia, Uncle Long and the rest of the beasties smiled smugly at her. "Shuai, how is it? It's pretty good here, right? Master, after our modification, this place can no longer be called the land of demons." The referee also said with a smile. "It's called Demon City." Len Ruoxia smiled. She knew that Uncle Long and the beasts had thought of many ways to make her forget her sad past. She was already extremely touched by this. However, the moment Len Ruoxia mentioned the Demon City, the judge lowered his head dejectedly. He looked at his master with a bitter expression and complained, "Master, can you not be so smart? Woo, we've lost badly." "What?" Hearing the judge's words, Len Ruoxia was a little lost. What did he mean by lost miserably? It couldn't be what she was thinking, right? Hee. Little Shuai, after we changed this place to its current appearance, we had already decided that this place would no longer be called the Land of Demons, but Demon City. We wanted to develop this place into a central city like the Imperial City, so that as long as the people of the Divine Realm heard the words, Demon City, they would think of respect and fear. However, a certain person and a certain beast did not agree with the name we changed on our own accord, so we must ask for your opinion. Hee. I already said that Shuai and I have a telepathic connection, but they refused to believe me. We had no choice but to make a bet. Uncle Long explained with a smile. Seeing that Shuai's mood had obviously improved, he dared to joke. "What's your bet?" Len Ruoxia asked curiously after hearing Uncle Long's words. "All the good things we have." Yi's eyes were filled with tears as he spoke pitifully. Chapter 2579, Coolie Who Came to the Door, 1. Hearing this, Len Ruoxia raised her brows and asked with a faint smile, "You guys still have good stuff on you?" As far as she knew, hadn't all the treasures on her beasts already been handed over to the public? What could they use to bet with Uncle Long and the others? Could it be that he wanted to gain something for nothing? Len Ruoxia was very curious. Since she had thought of this question, Uncle Long and the rest had thought of it as well. Following that, Uncle Long pulled the little fox, who was covered in black, over and asked, "Judge, you lost the bet. Hand over everything you have." "What is it?" Yao blinked his eyes and pretended to be innocent. Uncle Long was a little angry, and he said fiercely, "Of course it's the thing we bet on. I'm telling you, don't even think about being lazy, understand? Otherwise, I'll spank your butt." "Uncle Long, are you threatening me?" "I'm so sad, woo, how could you threaten such a cute snow fox like me?" The more Richard spoke, the sadder it became, and tears flickered in its eyes. If people who didn't understand it saw this, they might really feel heartache. It was a pity that everyone present was a smart person. Who couldn't see through the little trick that Richard had? Uncle Long would not fall for this little fox's trick. He couldn't help but laugh when he heard its words, "You're sad. Why are you sad? Come, let Uncle Long take a look." "Uncle Long, can't you see my depressed face?" As Yao spoke, he looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, acting like a depressed young man. Uncle Long and the others were overjoyed to see this. "Ha, you little fox, in order to not admit to your debt, you really do not hold back. I'm telling you. Fuck, there's no use in denying it. Now hand over your treasure, or you'll have to bear the consequences." Uncle Long continued to threaten him, but he couldn't hide the smile on his face. "I really don't have any treasure," Chi said dejectedly. The treasures they obtained had to be handed over to the public, so how could they dare to keep them for themselves? "So you're playing with us?" Hearing this, Uncle Long narrowed his eyes dangerously and said in a slightly displeased tone, "No, absolutely not. I wouldn't dare to play with you. I'm sincere in making this bet with you." The referee promised with a sincere look on his face. He almost swore to the heavens. "But you don't have any treasures." Uncle Long seemed to be very angry. "Woo. I didn't expect to lose. Master. You've really hurt your cute little fox." Yao wailed with a sad face. Uncle Long was helpless, but Len Ruoxue was even more so. Her beastie wanted to gain something without paying anything, yet it still pushed the blame onto her after losing. What was this? Len Ruoxue really wanted to shout out at the top of her lungs. She felt so wronged, even more so than Do-e, "Uncle Long, since this little fox doesn't have anything good, I think we should just forget about it." At this moment, Shui Ran, who was originally planning to watch the show, saw the little fox's pitiful appearance and her heart softened as she pleaded. When Uncle Long heard this, he exploded again and roared, "Forget it. No, we have so many people. How could he just let it go? This was a bet, you know. However much we can offer, it has to offer something of equal value. Otherwise, we won't be done." "Ah. Then how much can you give me?" "I'll pay for it, okay?" Shui Ran sighed helplessly. She couldn't understand. They were all family, so why was he so calculative about money? It was really too stingy. "Thanks, Elder Shui Yuan, are you really going to pay for it? No regrets?" Hearing this, Uncle Long blinked his eyes and looked at Shui Ran as if she was a fool. Shui Ran's hair stood on end when she saw Uncle Long's fiery gaze. A sense of extreme uneasiness rose in her heart. However, as the ancestor of the Snow Fox tribe, she felt that she could not be weak in front of Uncle Long. Otherwise, she would become a big joke. "Didn't I tell you? I'll pay for it, what's there to regret, this is no big deal." Elder Shui Ran said delightedly, but she couldn't help but think to herself, how much money can there be? Seriously, he actually doubted her integrity. "Then, do you want to pay for May and Baby S?" Uncle Long asked after nodding. "Arg." The king also lost the bet. Shui Ran was shocked. This was a huge matter. The king of their Snow Fox race was absolutely not allowed to renege on a bet. The consequences would be too serious if word got out. At that time, the reputation of their snow fox race would be greatly tarnished. Of course. These few little beasts have all lost. In my opinion, you might as well pay for you and Ling's wagers as well. You must know that they have a very good relationship. Uncle Long pointed at the other 4 little beasts and suggested with a smirk. Ah. How much do they owe in total? Elder Shuaru was a little confused. She truly felt that she had caught a hot potato. However, among the other 4 little beasts, Baby was a relative of the king, and the little black fox called herself a snow fox. Although the other 2 were not from the fox clan, they had grown up with the king. If she did not do anything, it would seem a little unreasonable, right? Not much. The total is only 500,000 top-grade crystals. Uncle Long said with a smile. Plop. Hearing the price, Elder Shuaran fell to the ground in shock. After she got up in a sorry state, she kept wiping the cold sweat off her forehead as her heart beat wildly. 500,000. 500,000. And it was a top-grade crystal. Wasn't this asking for the fox's life? Shuaran, who had always been elegant, wanted to curse when she heard that there was so much money. This was a huge debt. A king. How did you lose so much money? How long would this take? Just think about it, the entire fortune of the Snow Fox tribe added together was not even worth 500,000 top-grade crystals. Perhaps only the 4 legendary beast kings would be able to fork out so much money. To the other beast clans, it was difficult. It's not just difficult. If he did not handle it well, all the snow foxes would have to sell themselves. At this thought, Elder Shuaran broke out in cold sweat and did not respond for a long time. However, Uncle Long didn't rush her when he saw how frightened she was. He only looked at her with a pair of fiery eyes full of anticipation. After a long time. How did you get so much money? Shuaran asked with an ashamed expression. Is this a lot? If it wasn't for the fact that we don't have many valuable things on us, I'm afraid the total value would be even more than now. Uncle Long said with a smile. Ah. That's already quite a lot. Shuaran said softly. She immediately lowered her head in embarrassment to look at Uncle Long, who was smiling smugly. She regretted it. He regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. Why did he soften his heart for no reason? Now that he had taken on the debt of those little fellows, all of the Snow Fox tribe had to sell their bodies. Sob. If selling their bodies wasn't enough to pay off their debts, what else could they sell? Shuaran was rather worried. Elder Shuaran, are you saying, Uncle Long asked with uncertainty. I'll pay this sum of money. However, I don't have that much money right now, so I'll have to pay you back a little first. Shuemu gritted her teeth and said with determination. No problem. Elder Shuaru is indeed a loyal friend. Uncle Long praised.